If you want to watch Bluey, you'll need to pay attention to a lot of things at once. Each episode is packed with thousands of details.
That sounds great.
One of the coolest Easter eggs in the episode Magic is a fantastic reference to one of the most famous Pokemon from Pikachu's original generation. In this story, Bingo wants to play with Chili, but Mom is busy and tells her that unfortunately, she can't play right now. That's when Bluey steps in to teach her little sister one of the biggest rules in the healer family: magic. But while Bluey is explaining to Bingo that she has to pretend the magic is real, if you look closely in the background, you'll spot a pillow with the face of Mr. Mime. This Pokemon has the power to use mime techniques, making it a perfect reference to the healer family's style of magic. A power that no one can see, but it's definitely there. It's amazing how even the smallest details in this show hold hidden surprises. But don't worry, nothing stays invisible here. Today, we're revealing 15 little details hidden in Bluey, so grab your popcorn because it's time for another Cinewave. In the same episode, Magic, there's another really cool reference. If you look closely in the corner of the image when Bluey is teaching Bingo how to cast spells, you'll see a toy box with some stuffed animals. On the floor, there's a doll wearing a purple cape with stars, a pointy hat, and a magic wand beside it. This toy is a wizard, and it makes total sense in this story. Could he be the Dumbledore of Bluey's world? Or maybe another famous magic user? The reference is pretty clear because at the end of the episode, when Bluey and Chili duel, the scene is an Easter egg of the battle between Gandalf and Saruman from The Lord of the Rings. The references just keep coming. There's a hidden detail about Bingo's magic scene that only the sharpest fans noticed. Ready to find out? Bingo actually pulls off Goku's Kamehameha from Dragon Ball, and you probably never even realized it. When Bluey is teaching Bingo the correct poses, she adjusts her little sister's arms and hands. She also positions Bingo's leg, and at that moment, the brown pup unleashes an invisible power. This might not seem like a big deal, but if you compare the scene, you'll see that Bingo's stance is exactly the same as Goku's when he performs the Kamehameha. It's identical! Could this mean Bingo has the potential to go Super Saiyan? Bluey and Bingo aren't the only ones capable of using magic. The toy Chattermax also has the power to disappear whenever it wants. While Chili and her oldest daughter are dueling, you can spot Bluey's owl toy in the corner of the shelf right behind a plant. But when Mom Healer starts climbing the stairs, poof, magic trick. Chattermax just vanishes into thin air. Now that is an impressive power. Could this be how Bluey's toy always ends up in the most unexpected places? Some secrets are right in front of us, but we only notice them after a long time. If you look at the sky in this episode, you'll see that the clouds gradually get darker. This is the show's way of illustrating the passage of time. At this moment, the sky in Bluey's world is signaling that rain is coming. But here's the twist. By the end of the day, the sun is shining, meaning the rain never actually arrives. All those clouds were just an effect of the intense battle between Bluey and Chili. So, is magic actually real? And what about you? Would you use magic for good or for causing fun chaos like Bluey? Comment #magic so we can get to know ya. In the mini episode alongside, there's a little detail that cereal lovers will absolutely enjoy. When Honey and Bluey are having breakfast, they both grab some cereal, but Bluey's cereal box stands out the most. This cereal actually exists in real life. It's called Fruit Loops, and yes, it's delicious. Bluey really loves this type of cereal, but Bandit doesn't want her to eat it. Maybe he's trying to keep her on a healthy diet. Either way, Bluey wants it so badly that she even starts arguing with her dad. And what about you? What's your favorite cereal? No matter what it is, just be careful with all that sugar. In the episode Bob Bilby, when Bingo has to take the class puppet home, there's a little detail that might be unsettling or even gross for anyone who's afraid of insects. If you look closely at the back of the classroom, you'll see that Bingo's teacher, Miss Retriever, has placed some frozen insects inside glass display boxes. All of these insects are common in Australia, which is where the show is set. And the funniest part? That country is famous for having some of the most dangerous bugs in the world. Maybe this is the safest way to introduce kids like Bingo to these creepy crawlies. So scary!
My day is ruined.
Who would have thought Pixar would sneak an Easter egg into a show that isn't even one of their own? Still in the Bob Bilby episode, if you take a good look at the toy box in Bingo's classroom, there's a pretty clear reference. Look carefully at the top of the pile of toys. Isn't that the famous Pixar ball? The same one that appears in practically every Pixar movie? And the coolest part is that Bluey is actually a Disney show. Since Pixar is also part of the Disney family, It's like these two works are neighbors in the same universe. In the Quiet Game episode, we can spot a small poster for the Chunky Chimp movie next to the escalator leading to the toy store the healers are heading to. Moreover, we can see it again plastered on the side of a bus that stops at the bus stop where Bluey's neighbor was waiting. This makes it clear that the movie seems to be a huge hit and its screening has been going on for quite some time. Did you notice this detail during the Bluey episodes? We've got several others for you to check out now. It seems that besides Chunky Chimp, the other most famous children's attraction in the world of the Blue Puppy is Cat Squad, which the characters love to watch. Muffin even has a tricycle from the show itself. And if you look closely, you'll see that behind Bandit there's both a kind of Cat Squad lunchbox and a stylized tricycle, similar to Muffin's, just above the lunchbox, showing that this really must be the most successful series among the pups in the show. In the same episode, if we look behind Bluey and Bingo, inside the same toy store, we'll notice a reference that practically no one caught. A little further up, we can see a sign with a group of 5 dolls printed on it. This is a clear reference to the game Among Us, especially if we notice that all the characters wear clothes of different colors and have a glass visor on their heads, which shows that someone working on Bluey's creation also enjoys group and survival games. In the surprise episode, we notice another interesting new detail that we can say is a novelty. Among the stairs of the healer's house, there are several different paintings, but we notice what appears to be a new one. A photo of Uncle Radley apparently on the beach alone, right at the beginning of the first steps. Furthermore, we also notice another masterpiece of abstract art made by one of the girls and placed in the Healer family's living room. There's a new drawing that shows someone in a very round shape and with Bingo and Chili's colors. By deduction, we can imagine that this was a drawing of the girls trying to portray the new version of Aunt Brandy, who is now pregnant and awaiting the birth of the girl's new cousin. Surely that's it, or one of them meant to say that Chili is a bit overweight, which I think would be something she wouldn't like at all. So, in honor of the newest mommy who will surely bring another very cute little pup to Bluey's series soon, let's comment #Brandy. You may not know it yet, but in the Healer family's room, there's a copy of one of the great works of contemporary art. If we look closely, we'll notice the painting of a person sitting with a black dress and a kind of white fabric on her head. This is a reference to the painting by the famous Spanish painter Goya, called Portrait of Katrina, made in the 19th century. Indeed, it seems that Bandit and Chili are fans of art. In the first season, in episode 18, we see the kids playing hospital, where Bingo is the doctor and Bluey works at the reception and customer service. And one of the main reasons the kids consult with the doctor is a toy crocodile that attacks both Lucky and Snickers. This is the same stuffed crocodile that Grandpa Mort uses in the game in the Phones episode, which happens almost 100 episodes later, already in the 3rd season, creating a connection between the 2 episodes after several years. That's because some of them are really placed in almost impossible to find spots, especially if the scene is at night. Like in the episode Bin Night from the 2nd season, when Bandit and the girls are taking out the trash, the friendly neighbor of the Healers, Mrs. Doreen, quickly chats with them. And it's precisely at that moment that the long dog Easter egg appears, just behind the bush, next to Mrs. Doreen. The funny thing is, the next night we see the neighbor and the same bush again, but the long dog isn't there anymore. Probably moved to the next hiding spot in another episode.
Mr. Crow will definitely be coming tomorrow.
Are we ready?
Now, if I were to pick the episode where I found it most difficult to locate this Easter egg, I'd definitely put Granny's in first place. It appears right after the girls manage to call Grandma Nana. If you look closely and have a magnifying glass, you'll see that on Grandma's fridge door, there's a photo of Bingo, and next to it, there's a white paper with some things on it, and one of them is exactly the long dog. Believe it or not, this was the hardest one to find to date.
Hello?
As we talked about in the other video about the hardest to find long dogs, sometimes we have the Easter egg as a small toy or figurine. In some cases, it will just be a drawing made by the girls themselves or someone from the Healer family. That's exactly what happens in the episode Escape, where it's drawn inside an asteroid near the moon, where the girls' rocket ends up landing. It appears very quickly, so it's quite hard to see. You have to pause the episode at the right moment. In the Quiet Game episode, we can see it once again among the toys inside the store. When Bandit is trying to understand the mime and figure out which moon Unicorn Muffin still doesn't have, if you look behind, in the toy display case in the background, right next to Bandit's hand, there will be our dear long dog once again. We can see it better when Alfie enters the scene, in the same place. Do you remember Winnie, that friend Bluey makes when she goes to the park to play with her dad? And Bandit and Fido, Winnie's dad, become friends. But before that, if you look closely, you'll notice that under the bench where Bandit is sitting, there's a small long dog. And unlike the Easter egg that appears in the bin night episode, the first on our list, the next day it's there once again, showing that not all long dogs are runners. Another time we can find the Easter egg very quickly and well hidden, it happened in the episode Daddy Robot. When Robot Bandit picks up Bingo and says he's going to put her in the wash and puts the girl in the laundry basket, we can see that behind him there's a small mountain of dirty clothes. And among Bandit's underwear is exactly a small long dog that will surely be put into the washing machine later too. And since our video today once again is about Bluey's biggest Easter egg, let's comment #long, just like the little dog that always appears in the show episodes. There are some long dogs that are made to never be found. A perfect example of an Easter egg that's almost at that level is the one that appears at the very end of the space episode. The one where Mackenzie remembers his childhood and when he believed his mother had abandoned him in the playground. When he goes through the black hole, he's attacked by the aliens Chloe, Indy, and Bluey. And at that moment, near one of the bushes, we have an almost invisible long dog that was placed to never be found. What gave it away were the purple petals that clearly look like two wings on its back. They just didn't count on our sharp eyes. Another time the long dog was completely camouflaged was during the guessing game The Four Granddaughters Play with Grandma Nana, which happens in the Charades episode. Next to the couch, along with the crochet needles and the balls of yarn, we can see a very stylish long dog, who's even wearing a little hat, probably also made of crochet. But did Grandma Nana make the hat? It happens in the episode Tradies, when the girls go to the healer's office to snitch on the workers. If you look closely, there's a painting in the corner showing a cave dog holding a cat in its hand, as if it had hunted the feline. This must be the proof that in the universe of Bluey, at least in the past, dogs and cats were mortal enemies. That's probably why we've never seen cats in the series so far. Had you noticed this hidden detail before? Everyone knows Chili loves walking, and on top of that, she enjoys some good old rock music, as we can see from the music player on her arm, which, as we've mentioned in other videos, is a canine version of the album cover of The Dark Side of the Moon. But it looks like Bluey's mom isn't the only one who enjoys Pink Floyd, because we see Rocco, one of Bandit's friends, walking and listening to the same album. Or is it just that the animators of Bluey wanted to save time and reuse the music player? Now I'm not so sure. Did you notice that few characters always wear clothes in Bluey? Among the few who do, Indy, Bluey's classmate who always wears a vest, certainly stands out. But besides her, we also have the characters Chimpy and Sparky, who are the two workers who make the lake in the healer's backyard. They are the other characters with known names who always appear wearing clothes. There are also the characters who work in the stores and supermarkets of Brisbane, except for Alfie, who helps Bandit buy Muffin's birthday present.
Hey, mate, you his boss?
Yes?
Well, he's a legend.
Speaking of clothes, we can deduce that the characters' clothes in Bluey are actually their fur, except in the cases we just mentioned. But in the episode Stumpfest, there's a scene involving Stripe that is related to this, and at the same time makes no sense. We see Bandit's brother talking with Pat, and while he expresses himself, note that he makes the motion as if he were rolling up his sleeves. But what sleeves, since he doesn't wear clothes? This is certainly one of the biggest mysteries in Bluey.
Hey, just try and hit me. I want to show you something.
All right. Nah, not like that.
As we mentioned in the previous Bluey trivia video, the middle name of the little blue dog is Christine, and this is shown to us during the episode Family Meeting.
Bluey Christine Healer.
What nobody realized is that this is actually a tribute Bandit made to his mother, as Grandma Nana's real name is Christine. So, Bluey and Grandma Nana have more in common than we thought. Tell us, do you enjoy trivia as much as we do? If the answer is yes, comment below, #secret, so we know who the curious ones on this channel are. This leads us to another point. It seems that characters in Bluey only get their names after they are born, much like what is done with pets in real life, and of course, unlike human babies, since parents always choose the names before they are born. The biggest proof of this is undoubtedly the name of the series' own protagonist, which is Bluey exactly because of the color of her fur. After all, it would be weird if she were called Bluey and looked similar to Bingo, don't you think? Moreover, even with modern ultrasounds, I don't think equipment has yet been invented that can see the color of skin, or in the case of dogs, fur, while it's still in the mother's belly. The same premise applies to other characters in the series. For example, Chili has darker tones of fur, so her name is associated with pepper. Meanwhile, Brandy is a reference to a drink that has a lighter tone, just like the fur of Bluey's aunt. Just like Stripe, which is a reference to the different colors that Bandit's brother has on his body. Returning to the Tradies episode, we can notice an important detail. Chimpy is, at least so far, the only dog we see using tattoos. Moreover, he has two tattoos, a tiger on one arm and 2 cherries on the other. And this is exactly the other curiosity, Chimpy's tattoos. In fact, let's talk about just one of them, which is the cherry tattoo. Most likely, the second tattoo that Chimpy has on his arm is due to some love tribute he made to his girlfriend. This is because her name is Cherry, making it clear that the tattoo is really a proof of love from Chimpy to his girlfriend. We know that nearly 100 dog breeds have been represented in one way or another in the episodes of the Little Blue Puppy show. And we know that all of them, except for Socks when she was very young, live and act like humans. Or at least most of the time, because in some episodes, we see that the character's canine instincts emerge in some very cool moments. For example, in the episode The Creek, when Bluey is scared to jump from one rock to another, Mackenzie tries to encourage her and says it's as easy as jumping from one sheep to another sheep.
It's just like jumping from one sheep to another.
And Bluey says they don't do that. This is a hidden reference that the animators put in the series referring to Mackenzie's breed, which is a border collie, one of the most intelligent herding dog breeds. So it was just Mackenzie's canine instinct accessing his ancestral memories from long ago.
Nice one, Bluey.
But we can't judge Bluey's little buddy, because even her own father has succumbed to his canine instincts. As everyone knows, Bandit is an archaeologist, and in this profession, it is common to dig up bones of beings that lived in the past. And when the girl's father presents his latest discovery to the museum, he shows a huge bone. However, during the short episode of Bluey, at the end, Bandit ends up attacking the bone like the good blue healer he is. Moreover, as we mentioned, archaeologists look for historical artifacts that include bones, so this profession definitely suits a dog like Bandit. But this wasn't the only reason Bluey's dad got this job. The main reason for this choice is because Joe Brum's brother, the creator of the Little Blue Dog series, is actually a professional archaeologist, having even participated in some very important discoveries in the world of archaeology in the best Indiana Jones style. These are just a few of the many hidden secrets in Bluey that you will now see with us. In the episode Fancy Restaurant from the second season, we notice something very curious that is almost imperceptible unless you watch Bluey's episodes over and over like us. While Bandit and Chili are enjoying a romantic environment with poor quality music made by their eldest daughter, if you look behind the couple's heads, you'll see one of the lamps starting to flicker until it simply goes out. This indicates that the healer's house might need some electrical maintenance, or the bulb just burned out at that moment. But it's definitely a little detail that practically no one had noticed in the series. Going back to the episode The Creek, a small detail that went unnoticed by almost everyone who watched it happens right at the end. When the group returns from their nature walk, while Bandit talks to Bingo about some things she should be careful about, we see in the background that Bluey and Mackenzie still have a lot of energy and are playing together. And we see the little border collie pulling the puppy, and the two fall together in a somewhat romantic way. This reinforces the fans' argument that Bluey and Mackenzie will probably be a couple in the future, when they're old enough to date, of course. In the episode where we had the displeasure of meeting one of Bluey's grumpiest characters, Granny Pug, we see something else very interesting. When Muffin starts negotiating with the old lady, we see the woman pull out a wad of Australian dollars. If you're not from Australia, like me, you might not know, but the drawing on the money that Granny Pug is holding really looks a lot like the real $100 bill from the land of kangaroos and Bluey. That's because both are green and slightly orange in the middle. The man on the note is Sir John Monash, an Australian commander who fought in World War I, and on Granny Pug's notes, we can see there's a canine version of the historical character from Bluey's country. Do you love cartoons, especially Bluey, just like I do? Imagine having Bluey and Bingo right in your home, ready to play with you. Or how about creating your own Bluey through painting in this delightful coloring book? And don't miss out on the best part, the Scavenger Hunt game, an incredible board game that I'm sure you'll enjoy as much as we do at Cinewave. If you've fallen in love with any of these, simply click the link in the pinned comment to get yours and have it delivered straight to your door. We can say that the animators of Bluey really love to represent reality. This is because, still talking about money notes, when the little blue puppy gets a $5 note to spend at the market, in the episode Market, we notice that the money, just like in real life, has the emblem of the late Queen Elizabeth of the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth, of which Australia is a part of.
This is brilliant.
For instance, in the first minisode called Burger Dog, we see that while Bandit is resting, he is reading a newspaper. And if you remember well, whenever possible, the creators of Bluey like to pay homage to Australian athletes, as happened in the episode Surprise, where Australia's real sprinter was honored in the race Bandit was watching. And we notice the same thing happens here because on the cover of the newspaper, we can see a tennis player in the spotlight. This is a reference to Ashley Barty, the most successful tennis player in recent Australian history, who even reached #1 in the world rankings. And if there's one thing the folks who work on Bluey love, it's tennis. So this reference is definitely something they enjoy doing. And they love it so much that one of the Easter eggs that cannot be missed in Bluey are the famous tennis balls. And in this minisode, they appear not once, but twice. The first one is in the picture behind Bandit on the living room wall, and the second is exactly on the newspaper cover where we can see the dog version of Ashley Barty. These are just a few of the details and Easter eggs we found in Bluey's minisodes to show you today. This Burger Dog minisode is definitely one of my favorites. That's because I absolutely love that song, even though Bandit didn't like it one bit. The interesting detail is that when we see Bluey's dad from a top-down angle, we can see the image representing the song on his phone, and we can see that it's really a dog shaped like a burger. So now it makes sense that the song is called Burger Dog. Thank goodness, because I thought it would be a mix of a burger and a hot dog. Still in the same minisode, when Bingo has the brilliant idea to call for help from her mom, we see that Chili calls Bandit's phone to expose him, since he was lying to the girls claiming his phone had run out of battery. The detail is that when Bluey's dad receives the call, we can see the contact name, but we notice that Chili's name is written backward, like in a mirror, which is pretty strange as there's no mirror in the scene. One thing that appears quite frequently in Bluey are references to unicorns. One of them happens in the episode Markets, when the blue dog and Indy try to spend the $5 the protagonist has and then try to ride the ponies there. We can see that one of the small horses is disguised as a unicorn. And later, we can't forget about Unicorse, that naughty puppet who appears in 2 episodes of the show.
I know. Unicorns. What's your favorite food?
Children.
Oh.
So, we recall all this just to tell you that in the Bingo 3000 minisode, we can see a book with a unicorn on its cover in the Healer family's furniture. It could be a reference to both Unicorse and the pony from the Markets episode. In fact, we'll have more references to Unicorse in the minisodes to tell you about soon. Do you love cartoons, especially Bluey, just like I do? Imagine having Bluey and Bingo right in your home, ready to play with you. Or how about creating your own Bluey through painting in this delightful coloring book? And don't miss out on the best part, the Scavenger Hunt game, an incredible board game that I'm sure you'll enjoy as much as we do at Cinewave. If you've fallen in love with any of these, simply click the link in the pinned comment to get yours and have it delivered straight to your door. In this same episode, it's more than evident that Bandit is completely obsessed with sports. This becomes clear when in Bingo 3000, we see him once again reading a newspaper while sitting, and on one of the covers, there's a random dog holding a rugby ball, one of Australia's most popular sports. Meanwhile, take a good look at the cover of the magazine that Chili is reading. This is the very same magazine that the girl's mom was reading in the episode Hungry. While Bandit was pretending to eat the kids, we see Chili holding a magazine with the exact same cover, indicating that this might be one of her favorite magazines to read. In this same short episode, we noticed a very interesting detail that we're going to share with you. But first, let's recap the story a bit. Bandit starts a game that Chili simply hates. He pretends that he's so hungry that he's going to eat the kids, and it ends up with Bluey, who is in the living room. Then we see the dad adding spices, pretending to swallow Bluey, and then having indigestion and vomiting her onto Bingo, who shows up afterward. That said, this entire minisode is totally related to one of the funniest episodes and one of the most annoying characters in the series, Unicorse. That's because, if you remember well, when Bluey asks the puppet what his favorite food is, he stares at the blue dog and answers, "Children." So eating children seems to be something Unicorse would do.
I'm just gonna eat one of the kids.
Here's one thing Bandit loves to do, it's playing with his daughters. But another thing he definitely enjoys is letting out a lot of gas. In fact, there was even an episode almost entirely dedicated to the trial of the Healer family dad, who was accused of farting in his daughter's face. As you might guess, he was definitely guilty. However, there's an episode where Bandit secretly lets one rip, and no one, not even his family, noticed. But we did. At the end of the swimming episode from season 2, the whole family is hugging, and Bingo notices the water is warmer. It turns out it's because Bandit had peed at that moment. But the most interesting detail is that if you look at the shadow cast by Bluey's dad's submerged body, you'll notice a bubble rising from behind Bandit, indicating that he let out a fart while peeing simultaneously. Bandit is definitely hilarious, and Bluey is such a fantastic show! The episodes of Bluey are all interconnected, and we can prove it. In season 1, there was the episode Bob Bilby, where Bingo brings home a puppet from her school to capture fun moments with her family. Since they didn't use cell phones or tablets that day, the photos were taken with one of Bandit's old cameras. The Healers took several fun photos that went into Bob's album, which was taken back to school. One of these photos was so special that the family decided to frame it. We can only see this photo at the very end of the mini Bluey episode in season 3, released more than 3 years after the Bob Bilby episode.
Why can't you kids just walk in a straight line?
They don't know how.
In the Bob Bilby episode itself, we found another hidden detail. Actually, we found hidden characters in one of the final scenes of the episode. When the healers are watching an amazing fireworks show at night in their town and everyone is standing by a large lake, notice that next to Bluey are two dogs that we know very well. Stripe, Bluey's uncle, and his partner Trixie. Now tell me, have you ever noticed that they were there before? And no lying, okay?
You're kidding, right?
Going back to Bluey's family garage, notice there's a surfboard leaning in the corner that Bandit or Chili probably used a lot in their youth. And you might notice a very peculiar symbol on it, a pineapple. This pineapple isn't there by accident. This tropical fruit is the symbol of Ludo Studio, the company responsible for creating and animating the episodes of Bluey. So if you thought the Little Blue Dog show was a Disney creation, sorry to say, but you were mistaken. But that's okay, to err is human, and canine too. But for sure, this isn't the only time we see pineapples in Bluey's episodes. In fact, they're practically a hidden Easter egg that we see every now and then throughout the series, and where we least expect it. For example, in the helicopter episode, there's a scene where Rusty and Jack join in the game with Bluey, and you can see that on Rusty's army hat there's an insignia of a fruit. Guess which one? Exactly, a pineapple! It's actually the same hat Rusty wears when playing with Jack since the army episode. And if you haven't been paying attention, you might not have noticed that we can see the boys playing this game multiple times throughout the series, like in the TV Shop episode, right at the beginning behind Bingo and Bluey. Also, at the very end of the Curry Quest episode, the pair of friends runs by again, but this time, instead of wearing typical army attire, their faces are painted in camouflage colors, probably done by Mackenzie's mom. These little details are really cool and show just how detailed Bluey really is. I know you love to play, so check out this awesome Sonic toy for you to have fun with. Click the link in the first pinned comment and take it home. In the Baby Race episode, we can see the pineapple that references the Ludo logo once more, but this time it's the logo on the laptop that Chili uses throughout the episode. This is a clear nod to the logo of the world's most famous technology equipment brand, which is also represented by a fruit, but it's an apple. Speaking of the mini Bluey episode, we can find another detail related to it. At the beginning of the episode, we see Chili looking for books to return to the library, and notice that the book bag has a leopard painted on it. You might not have realized it, but this is the same bag that the Healer family uses in the Promises episode.
What could it be? Maybe he just like exploring.
It seems that the main characters in Bluey have a special ability to enter the dreams of their close relatives. This happens twice in the show so far. The first time we see this is in the episode Fruit Bat, where we see the little blue dog watching her dad thrash his friends in a rugby game. In fact, father and daughter even have a brief conversation during the interaction between the two dreamers. And the proof that this was indeed the dream the protagonist's father was having at that moment is that shortly before, when she comes down the stairs, we see Bandit lying on the floor holding a rugby ball and moving his legs as if he were running, indicating that he was already dreaming about his sports days before becoming a dad. The other time this happens is in the episode Sleepy Time, which is still considered one of the best episodes in the show's history. This time we see that Bluey and Bingo can not only dream together, but also play together in their own dreams. Unfortunately for the girl's dad, they were dreaming that they were bouncing on the soft surface of a planet, which was actually poor Bandit's back. These are just the first details we've picked out for you in this amazing video, so relax in your chair and join us for another episode of Cinewave. Another interesting detail that many people missed is that when we see Bluey and Mackenzie playing with boats in the episode Barky Boats, that wasn't the first time the two had played that game. That's because in the episode The Creek, we see them playing pretty much the same game, but this time with bigger and nicer boats, even with leaf sails. The coolest thing is that there are 50 episodes between these two playtimes of the friends, and, who knows, future sweethearts. Speaking of Bandit's dream, it seems that he and his friends played rugby on their street a few times, and they left a clue behind, which can be seen in the episode Double Babysitter. When Chili and her husband say goodbye to the babysitters and their daughters, if you look up at the roof of the Healer family's house, you'll notice a ball stuck up there, and to this day, we haven't discovered how it got there. This is definitely one of the biggest unsolved mysteries in Bluey.
But that's simply not possible.
In the Blue Pup show, we notice that the animators like to use vehicle license plates to make little references to the names of their owners. This happens, for example, with Frisky's car, which we see her driving when she's extremely irritated upon discovering that her future husband had plans to take her to another city. If you look closely, you'll see that the license plate on her car reads FR15K. This is a play on numbers and letters where the 1 looks like the letter I and the 5 looks like the letter S, forming the name Frisk, which is how Bluey's godmother's name is pronounced. We even see something similar happening with the license plate of Bluey's family car, where we see the numbers and letters 419 HLR. Obviously, HLR is a reference to the family's last name, Healer, and 419 is the color code number that corresponds to the main blue tone of Bluey's fur.
Yes, we went water skiing.
Well, beat it, you old fossils!
Recently, we discovered that this license plate fun even applies to toy cars, as when Muffin visits the girl's house in the episode Pizza Girls, we can see that on her toy car, on the back license plate, are the letters MFN, which were chosen, of course, in reference to the name Muffin, which contains the 3 letters. And in honor of Bluey's cousin and her super cool toy car, today we're going to comment below with #Muffin. I'll be checking all the comments. Let's talk about Grandpa Bob. After appearing in Season 1, Bandit's dad went missing for over 100 episodes in the present timeline, only showing up in flashbacks of Bluey's dad's past. But in Radley and Frisky's wedding, we see him reappear, with Grandma Nana saying that he had been in India all this time. Even though many viewers didn't notice, the show itself had already hinted that this was where Bob was. In the episode Backpackers, we see Chili holding a travel guide with a picture of the Taj Mahal on the cover, one of the most beautiful architectural works in all of India. Then, in the episode Ghost Basket, we also see a postcard from India pinned to the family's refrigerator, indicating that it was sent by Grandpa Bob from there. This solves the big mystery. Did you ever notice that Chili was a field hockey champion? In Bob Bilby, when they're at the shopping mall, Mom Healer is watching a game of field hockey, and we know that's her favorite sport. But if you check out the garage scene when Bandit is looking for the instant camera, pay attention to what's behind him. You'll spot a field hockey trophy, and that award has to belong to Chili. First, because it's her favorite sport, and when she was younger, she definitely played. That means this could be a trophy from her school days or even a semi-pro team. Second, we know that Bluey's sport is karate. We see that in the episode Bin Night. Bingo, on the other hand, does play hockey like her mom, but she just started, so that trophy can only belong to Chili. And why couldn't it be Bandit's? Simple. Chili already mentioned that Mr. Healer's sport was rugby. In the episode Tickle Crabs, there's a really funny reference to one of DreamWorks' most iconic characters, Puss in Boots. When Bluey and Bingo ask Bandit to play Tickle Crabs with them, a game he hates, the two decide to pull off their best sad and innocent faces. That's the exact same expression Puss in Boots uses in the Shrek movies to trick his enemies and get what he wants. And yes, this is clearly a direct reference because the two pups use the same trick to force Bandit into playing a game he doesn't want to. Do we need to give you puppy dog eyes to convince you to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications? Please! We post videos every day, you won't regret it! In the same episode, Chili proves to be way smarter than Bandit by hiding in the pantry so her daughters can't find her. Later, when Bandit gets tired of being tickled, he does the same and runs to the closet. Almost no one notices this detail, but right next to the door, there's a framed picture of Bingo with Bob Bilby. Yep, the classroom puppet from Miss Retriever's class. Could Bingo have taken him home another time? Hopefully Bob will make a return in Season 4. It's probably going to be Bluey's soon-to-be-born cousin who gets to take the puppet home this time, over at Aunt Brandy's house.
I love it even more.
In the episode Circus, when all the characters head to the polling station to vote for their community leaders, there's one familiar face in the crowd, but we don't actually know her name. If you take a good look at the scene, you'll spot Cornelius's ex-girlfriend, Winton's dad's former partner, chatting with a colleague in the corner. It seems like she's campaigning for the candidate in blue, while the person next to her is supporting the green candidate. Are they just friends, or something more? We don't know for sure, but in the show's timeline, this scene happens only 5 episodes after her encounter with Cornelius. So, maybe they were still dating at this point. As we've mentioned before, if you really want to understand all the details in Bluey, you'll need to watch the episodes more than once, and here's yet another reason why. In the episode Army, when Rusty and Jack are playing soldiers, there's another big story unfolding at the same time, one you probably missed. Right when Jack arrives at Calypso's school, Bluey and Chloe are playing horsies. But if you pay attention to what the Dalmatian is wearing, you'll immediately recognize what game they're playing. They're acting out princesses and witches, the same game from the episode The Adventure, where Bluey and Chloe take on different roles in a story about a kingdom trying to escape an evil witch. So if you really want to know what Chloe and Bluey are up to while Jack and Rusty are off exploring the world as soldiers, you'll need to go back and watch The Adventure from Season 1. Puss in Boots. And it seems that Batman, Strawberry Shortcake, and Hamtaro are not the only cartoon characters that exist in the Bluey universe, because it seems that Shrek also exists there. Not exactly Shrek, but a character from the franchise who even has his own movies, Puss in Boots. That's because in several moments, the girls give that fatal look in the best feline swordsman style when they want to convince their dad to do something, which is a clear reference to Puss in Boots and his look that is simply impossible to get angry at. This is probably the cutest reference of all. It's impossible to say no. These never noticed, But did you notice that both Biscuit and Buttermilk are dressed up every time the little ponies appear? While Buttermilk has a unicorn costume, complete with a little horn and all, we can see that Biscuit is dressed as another mythological creature, the Pegasus. She even has a small pair of wings, as we can notice. Going back to the same scene from the end of Curry Quest, when looking at the pony lady, we can notice some really cool things that few people noticed. Besides the lady who takes care of the ponies, we can see that two characters reappear. We're talking about Mia and Captain, Bluey and Mackenzie's two older friends whom we meet in the second season. Already in that episode, we could see that something was going on between the two 12-year-old buddies, and now in this ending of the third season episode, we can see that it seems like they're getting closer and closer. Honestly, I think the relationship between the two is only a matter of time. Moreover, we can see that Rusty and Jack rush by with camouflage paint on their faces, which indicates that even on weekends, the two friends usually play Army too. This is definitely Jack's favorite game, and if I were to guess, I'd say he'll serve when he's older, just like Rusty's dad. And really, it seems like Jack has a lot of speed since Rusty can't catch up with his friend.
I'm a Jack Russell. Whoa. Get to the chopper.
Since we talked about Bluey's classmates, another interesting thing we can notice involves the school the kids attend. We can see that the location of the little puppy's school is very wooded and full of spaces for play. Therefore, everything indicates that it's a bit far away, like a rural area. And because of that, if you're attentive, you'll notice that at times a little chicken can be seen wandering around the school in some episodes, indicating they might have a small chicken coop nearby. Now, we're going to give you some great advice. Click down below on the subscribe button and join our team of cartoon and animation movie fans. This way, you won't miss our upcoming videos. Surely the character with the most girlfriends in the entire Bluey series is Cornelius, Winton's dad. Despite not having the looks of a heartthrob, the English Bulldog must have some qualities since, as we know, the stud is already on his fourth relationship, at least, and the explanation for this may be much simpler than we can imagine. In fact, Cornelius has so many girlfriends because he simply looks identical to a big Hollywood actor in Bluey's Canine universe. If you look closely, you'll notice that on one of the posters we see at the cinema is a character who plays a detective in some successful police movie. Without a doubt, resembling someone famous worldwide opens some doors and sparks interest where you least expect it. Since Winton's dad isn't dumb, he takes advantage of the situation. Returning to the episode Market, we see that our protagonist received a $5 note from her dad. And, as you already know very well, it's a replica of the Australian $5 note, which is also pink. But the coolest thing about it is that we see an adaptation of the image of the Queen of England, who was alive at the time, on the bill. The canine version of then Queen Elizabeth wasn't drawn by chance. This is because the breed used to represent the sovereign of England was exactly the Welsh Corgi. This was the Queen's favorite dog breed, as she had over 30 puppies of this breed in the palace where she lived since her youth. Now talking about the $10 note, which we also see at a certain point in the episode Market, we see another person featured on it. When Honey's mom pays the vegetable stand girl, we can see that the person on the note is a very famous personality in Australia, the poet and composer Andrew Banjo Patterson, who is also on the same real-world $10 note. Andrew became very famous for creating folk songs. The dog is used to portray the poet to be a dingo, a type of Australian wild dog. Let's now talk about a very curious detail we noticed at the beginning of the same episode. While Bandit is having his breakfast and reading the newspaper, note that under the table there's a stuffed carrot toy. This little toy seems to be a reference to one of the advertising characters of the Aldi supermarket chain, initially created for the company's Christmas ads. This mascot's name is Kevin, the carrot, created in 2016. Since the chain is well known in Australia, which is Bluey's land, it makes a lot of sense for this reference to really be the supermarket chain's mascot. Now, speaking of interconnected Bluey episodes, have you noticed that the episode Christmas Swim and the episode The Doctor are interconnected? In The Doctor, we see the kids pretending they're in a hospital, and Bingo is the doctor in charge of attending to all the people present there, including Lucky, Honey, Snickers, Indy, and even Rusty. That said, going now over 50 episodes later, when almost the entire Healer family is gathered at Stripe's house to open their Christmas presents, we see that the gift Bingo got is none other than a doctor's kit. This is a reference to the episode released many years before. Man, that's so cool. Well, folks, even Australia's little blue pup has a soft spot for one of her friends, despite many people shipping Bluey with Jean-Luc, the French-speaking friend she met while camping. The truth is, we have a real clue about the person she likes in the episode where we see Bluey dreaming. In this episode, she flies and hangs out with her favorite animals, bats. And at one point, she passes by and we see Mackenzie sleeping. But we have to remember that it was a dream, which means Mackenzie was in Bluey's dreams. In other words, we usually dream about people we really like, even if we don't show it, especially when we're kids. And let's be honest, who hasn't had a crush on a schoolmate or someone they played with a lot? We don't judge you, Bluey. The meaning of the license plate. Bluey's family has a car that looks like a Jeep, but slightly different, which we always see them using when they travel longer distances. And if you've been paying attention, you might have noticed that the license plate has 3 numbers followed by the letters HLR. Those who noticed probably realized that the letters are a reference to the Heeler's family last name, Heeler. This is actually a reference to the 2 species of dogs that make up the family, as Bandit and Bluey are blue Heelers and Bingo and Chili are red Heelers. But what about the numbers? Do they have any significance? The license plate is 419 HLR. There are millions of colors and shades in the world, and each one is identified by a 3-digit hue number. The hue of the number 419 is a blue identical to the lighter shade of blue used to color Bandit and the show's main character, Bluey. That's where the show's name comes from.
Why was that car beeping you? Because the light was green.
Yeah, I didn't see it change.
State references. When we see the Heeler family's car license plate, we can see a symbol between the numbers 419 and the letters HLR. And when we look in that same scene at another car in the parking lot, we see the same symbol but enlarged, next to one of the rear taillights of the car behind Bandit. This strange symbol that most of us have no idea about is actually a reference to the state in which the entire show takes place. Bluey and all her friends and characters in the show live in Brisbane, the 3rd largest city in Australia, which is the capital of the state of Queensland, one of the 6 states in the country. And if you look closely, you'll notice that the state of Queensland has the exact same shape as the symbol we see on both the Heeler family's car plate and the car sticker in the parking lot. So, it's clear that the people behind the show really love the place they call home, and that's pretty cool. Is Radley adopted? Radley is Bandit's older brother and the only one of the 3 who hasn't married yet, although it seems like he and Frisky, Bluey's godmother, are dating. But what we're going to talk about now isn't a confirmed secret, but rather a strong theory that is circulated on the internet and may or may not be proven in the series. The idea that Radley is not Bandit's biological brother, but rather adopted. This theory gains strength because Radley is completely different from the rest of the family. His fur is not similar to that of his siblings, father, or mother, and it's lighter and bluer at the same time. We know that in the Bluey series, there's a tendency to relate parents and children by the color of their fur, like with Bluey and Bandit, Bingo and Chili, Judo and Wendy, and many other cases. But that's not the case with Radley, which raises strong suspicions that actually make sense. However, we'll need to wait for future episodes to find out if this theory is true or not.
Who ate all the mini cereals? He did. Right, you, get over here.
Chili marks her territory. No, we're not talking about the time she pretended to go to an imaginary bathroom in the living room. We're talking about the small detail we noticed in the episode where she and the girls visit her father's childhood home and start chasing him. At one point, Chili says they can't hide from her because she knows that area like the back of her hand, which is true, and Granddad Mario confirms it. Shortly after that, Granddad and the girls go to a swamp, and there we see several tree roots. If you look closely, you'll see the name Chili marked on one of the giant roots. Chili probably made that mark for herself when she was a bit older than Bluey. This is one of the pieces of evidence that show that the girl's mother has always been quite adventurous. Analysis of Bluey's world's future, we can observe another subtle detail that practically no one noticed. If you look closely, you'll notice that on the rooftops of the houses on the street where Bandit and Chili live, and in nearby houses as well, dark blue structures have been added. This is a reference to the use of solar energy, considered one of the cleanest in the world. This also fits well with Australia, as it's a very sunny country too. Furthermore, we can notice 2 more items that highlight that technology is an important part of Bluey's future. The first of these are delivery drones, which are already a reality in much of the world, and we can see them flying over the skies of Brisbane. Another point is the car that Bluey arrives in to visit her parents. The vehicle has every chance of being an electric vehicle, which is also becoming increasingly known as new environmentally friendly means of transportation. Congratulations to adult Bluey. Returning now to the entrance hall of the Heeler family's house, where Long Dog is, we can find other really cool details that many didn't notice. One of them is that the cleaning robot is cleaning the room until it hits the wall and doesn't move from there anymore. Apparently, Bandit is the only one who notices this as he looks at the cleaning robot and makes a kind of "again" expression, but doesn't say anything. I think it should go to the charger that's right next to where it got stuck. If you've made it this far, you're one of us, and surely enjoy cartoons and animated movies. So, here's a tip. Subscribe to our channel because we have a new video here every day. Back to the Healer family's living room, if we look up from the cleaning robot's charger, we'll notice a digital frame where we see several photos of memorable moments of Bluey's family that happened between the two moments at the end of the episode. And the first image we see is Bingo on a trip to Easter Island, which is an internationally famous archaeological site with giant statues. And, of course, in the animated series version, the statues are canine. This, in fact, opens up space for a very cool theory: that Bingo, in the future, will follow her father's footsteps and become a renowned archaeologist. We'll probably make a video soon talking more about this theory. The next image we see is one where the protagonist family is complete and gathered celebrating exactly Bluey's graduation. And we can say for sure that it's definitely a university graduation because the blue pup is wearing a graduation cap. In Australia, graduation from high school doesn't involve this accessory, only in higher education graduations. Now I'm curious, what course did Bluey study? Moreover, if you look closely, you'll see that in this same photo, Chili is already wearing glasses. But the detail is that the glasses frame is green in the digital image, unlike the brown ones she's wearing when Bluey comes home. This indicates that Chili's prescription might be increasing over the years, which is normal as age progresses. And it really seems that it's been a few years since Bluey graduated, especially considering the size of her pup. We can see that the Healer grandparents have indeed become fans of the convenience of modern life and have two Amazon technological devices at home. The first of these is a device that looks a lot like the Alexa Echo Dot 5, which is next to the house's door, on top of a small puff. The ones we usually use to listen to music and ask questions to Alexa. The other device is another Alexa, but this time the Echo Show 5 version, which has a 5.5-inch screen where we can see that it's 3:30 p.m. and the background image is a beach, a place that Bluey and Bingo's family really enjoy visiting. The device is usually used to create alarms and other specific timers, as well as a myriad of other functions. And finally, on the ceiling of the room, we can see another technological device that closely resembles a fire prevention apparatus, but is actually an infrared smart universal remote control compatible with Google and Amazon devices. This equipment allows Bandit and Chili to control their appliances and electronics from their phones even from a distance. Let's agree that the Healer's life is really much more comfortable compared to when Bluey and Bingo were little 6- and 4-year-old pups. Flappy, that blue butterfly crucial in helping Chili find Frisky in the episode The Sign, had references long before the episode Slide, where Bingo and Leela save the caterpillar that eventually becomes the blue butterfly. Maybe you never noticed, but the clip that Coco wears isn't a flower, it's actually a blue butterfly. And believe it or not, it was always in Joe Brum's plans, the creator of Bluey, for the little blue butterfly to play an important role in the entire story, since if it weren't for her, the Healer family home might have been sold. And there's a reason for that. One of the videos the creator of the Little Blue Dog produced before thinking about making children's cartoons is called Causes, and right at the beginning, we're introduced to Flappy. In the video, it shows how the simple flutter of a butterfly's wings can cause consequences and effects on the other side of the world. It's somewhat similar to what happens in Bluey, where a series of interconnected events eventually lead to the Healer family not moving, much to our delight. If you watch Bluey, you know that one of the things the girls love the most is unicorns, so much so that Muffin has a collection of them. Not to mention Unicorse, who is probably the craziest character in the entire series. But besides seeing the fantasy animal represented in toys, we also see it in other moments, like in the episode Surprise, where we see it hidden on the cover of a book on the shelf by the TV. It wasn't hidden well enough for our eyes to miss. This is one of the most hidden unicorn references I've ever seen. It only loses to the most recent reference we found in the minisode Hungry. When the short episode begins, we can see that Bluey herself is lying on the floor drawing something. And when we see Bandit pretending to swallow his own daughter, we get a better look at the paper and can identify that the drawing is indeed of a unicorn, once again referencing the girl's favorite animal. This one was definitely hard to spot. And since it's a very quick scene, we noticed that most Bluey fans didn't realize that in the episode Perfect, the Healer's fridge is completely packed with references to other characters and episodes. For example, on the drawing at the top, we can see that one of the girls made a drawing of their cousins, Socks and Muffin. The older daughter of Stripe has an angry face, which definitely suits the little dog, who is quite stressed out. What's even cooler is that right next to the drawing of the cousins, we can spot a drawing that was undoubtedly made by Bluey, where we see a character that resembles Mia. That older friend of Bluey we met in the episode Barky Boats, who is in love with Captain, and he's in love with her too. And if you, like us, think this character should appear more often in Bluey, comment below with #Mia. As we mentioned, the fridge door is full of references to previous episodes. One of these episodes is Wagon Ride, where Bandit pulls his two daughters in a cart to the park so they can play. And it's that exact same cart we see in the drawing just below the one Bluey made, directly referencing one of the episodes from the first half of the animated series season from a few years ago. We can also see a drawing that was definitely made by Bingo this time, featuring the duck-shaped cake that Bandit struggled to make in the episode Duck Cake for Bingo's birthday, which was the next day in the series. And further down, we can see a drawing the girls made of Uncle Radley and Aunt Frisky, holding hands with little hearts above their heads, showing that they knew the two were truly in love. And we couldn't miss noticing the drawing of Unicorse, where we see once again the crazy puppet, which seems to be one of the two sisters' favorite toys. We know Bluey is distributed by Disney worldwide, and perhaps that's why, from time to time, we see some tributes in the Little Blue Dog series to some Pixar and Disney movies. One of these hidden tributes that few people have noticed happens in the episode Barnacus and Bumpy, where Bingo and Chili are in a hospital. And if you look closely on the wall, behind Bluey's younger sister, there's a drawing of a clownfish that is identical to Nemo from the 2003 movie Finding Nemo. This creates yet another Disney reference in the show that we all love so much. In that same episode, we see another hidden reference that nods to the world's biggest tech company, Apple. Bingo and Chili are watching the movie made by Bluey, her relatives, and some friends on a tablet. And we can notice that this tablet is a dog version of Apple's iPad, and instead of the company's Apple logo, we can see a logo that's a bone. Which couldn't be more fitting, especially in a society where only dogs exist. It really makes perfect sense. And another thing that makes perfect sense is for you to subscribe right now to the channel so you don't miss our next videos, which are posted every day. Reasons for this success is the attention to detail that goes into every episode, as the creators think about even the smallest things. Do you know all the hidden details in Bluey? Seriously, there are so many details, like in the episode Traders, where the character Chippy has a cherry tattoo on his arm. This is a reference to Cherry, his girlfriend. Now that's true love, right? Speaking of Cherry, have you noticed that the car's license plate says C? This hints that they're surfers, which totally suits the couple. The plate could also be a nod to the car's name itself, Seagull, and the reason Cherry's car has this name is pretty unexpected. It's a tribute to Seagull Chippy, a series of comedy TikTok videos by Sam Cotton, who voices Chippy. Frisky, who is Bluey's godmother, also has a custom license plate with her initials, FR15K. The numbers can be read as letters if you pay close attention. You can catch this in the episode The Sign when she calls off her wedding with Bluey's uncle. Luckily, everything works out in the end. The same goes for Wendy's car plate, W3ND73, which is just more proof of how much detail goes into the series. Many Bluey fans wish a new child would join Bluey's family, but there are signs that this won't happen. In the first episode of Season 3, we get a flashback where Bandit mentions wanting to get a vasectomy, meaning he can't have any more kids. This part was removed from most versions of the episode, although it wasn't inappropriate. If that's not enough proof, in the episode Surprise, we see adult versions of the characters. In one scene, there's a family portrait of the Healers, and no unknown family members are present, indicating that they never had another sibling. While it's a bit of a bummer that we probably won't see Bluey getting a new brother or sister, at least she already has a fun family full of entertaining characters. If you love Bluey's family, comment below with #family.
I love it even more.
Speaking of having kids, anyone who watches Bluey knows that Aunt Brandy has trouble having children because she's infertile. This even made Chili worried she might not be able to have kids either, but luckily that wasn't the case with Bluey's birth. But did you know that Brandy's infertility isn't just random? Both she and Chili are red healers, a breed that often faces fertility issues. In the episode The Sign, Brandy actually appears pregnant. She probably went through some kind of fertility treatment, which is amazing because she's always wanted to have kids.
Hi, girls.
In the episode Markets, Bluey receives a $5 bill. Unsure of what to do with it, she eventually spends it on a toffee apple. The bill then starts traveling as different people use it to buy things or gift it to others, and eventually it finds its way back to Bluey. This time she uses the second chance to give the money to Busker, a street musician. What's funny is that Busker holds onto that bill for quite a while. Keen-eyed viewers will notice he still has it in later episodes, like Dance Mode, where the money can be seen sitting in his hat. The last time we see this bill is in the Silence Game, where Busker finally spends it on ice cream. By the way, that pink bill isn't something made up for the show. It's actually the real Australian $5 note, which makes sense since the series takes place in Australia. What's interesting is that while the real bill has Queen Elizabeth on it, Bluey's version features a dog who's clearly their world's version of the Queen. And fittingly, the dog is a corgi, Queen Elizabeth's favorite breed. It's so cool how they make this world feel so relatable. I can almost imagine a dog version of myself living there. Bluey is full of fun references to various movies, and one of them is a nod to Batman. It happens in the episode Fruit Bat, where Bluey dreams that she can fly like a bat and soars past the moon. This scene closely resembles a shot from the 1989 Batman movie directed by Tim Burton, where the Dark Knight's plane flies past the moon in a similar way. Since we were just talking about puppets, Unicorse isn't the only one the Healer girls love. He's got competition from Bob Bilby, the little puppet that Bingo takes home for the weekend to have fun and take lots of cool photos with. We can see that the experience with the little puppet was so memorable that Chili and Bandit have a photo of their youngest daughter with Bob on one of the pieces of furniture near their bed. It shows that those moments were truly unforgettable. One of Bluey's friends who has been with her since she was just a little pup is Snickers, and there's one item he wears that's practically inseparable, his yellow cap. A lot of people don't realize it, but we only see the little dachshund without his cap twice. And one of those times is in the episode Explorers, where he's having a blast sliding down the hill at school. At that moment, we can see his cap falls off his head as he starts rolling. The other time we see him without his cap is in the mini-episode Canine News, where he's presenting a little pretend news broadcast, and to look more professional, he takes off his cap. But really, as his mom once said, it seems like he was born with that cap. Speaking of Bluey's school, we know it's not closing anytime soon. Even after Bluey finishes her studies there, we see that Bingo and her best friend Leela will also go to school there. This is confirmed by the photo we see at the end of the episode Dad Takes the Girls to School. After witnessing the beginning of Bingo and Leela's friendship, we see a sequence of photos that follows them into adulthood, showing that the two will study together all the way through college. In one of the photos in the background, we see Bluey's school, indicating that the two will go there together as soon as they turn 6, which isn't too far off, since Bingo just turned 5. One of Bluey's newer classmates is Jack Russell, who ends up becoming Rusty's best friend. In the episode Explorers, we see that his dad has a hard time finding his way to his son's school since they are not from the area. We know the family's last name is Russell, and the animators decided to leave a little reference on the car's license plate, where we see the letters and numbers RUS 531. The 5 looks like an S, the 3 resembles an E, and the 1 is like a lowercase l. This creatively forms the family's last name, Russell. I've got to say, that's pretty clever. We all know that Bluey and Bingo's parents work, Chili at airport security and Bandit as an archaeologist. In Bandit's case, we can deduce this from his office, which is filled with artifacts. And from the episode Curry Quest, where we see him on a long trip of a month and a half, doing a video call with his family, and it's clear that he's in a distant location. However, there's another clue that almost none of the viewers have noticed. In the last episode of the latest season of Bluey, when the little blue dog is pummeling Bandit with plastic balls, as he runs through the room, we can spot a painting where the Healer Patriarch is dressed in archaeologist gear, digging a hole at some kind of historical site. This is definitely one of the hardest Easter eggs to spot in Bluey. As we mentioned earlier, it's the little details in Bluey that make this show so special. One of these tiny details happens in the episode Slide, when Bingo is playing with Leela and she notices a little grasshopper on the water slide. She can't stop in time, but she manages to bounce her bottom over the insect without hurting it. What's most interesting about this is that Leela is running alongside her friend the whole time, but when she's about to hit the little bug, many didn't notice that Leela closes her eyes to avoid seeing what she imagines will be a big accident. It's kind of like how kids actually act when they don't want something to happen. That's why I love Bluey so much. The show really captures how kids behave in the real world. And that's just awesome. Another cool detail involving a car that ties into Winton's family, one of Bluey's friends. In the episode TV Shop, you can see a drawing on the back window of Cornelius's car, Winton's dad. It shows a child and an adult next to a figure that seems to have been erased. It's likely the child represents Winton, the adult is Cornelius, and the erased figure was Winton's mom, removed due to their divorce. Poor Winton. Seeing your parents split up must be rough. Who knows how the little guy is coping? On top of that, we've seen Cornelius with different women throughout the series. This probably means he's been on several dates, trying to find love again. In Curry Odyssey, Cornelius can be spotted in the airport crowd waiting for someone's arrival, likely a woman he met online and was about to meet in person for the first time. Fortunately, he eventually formed a strong bond with the mother of the terriers, and it's great to know he didn't give up before finding happiness. Here's hoping the couple continues to thrive. Some people might have a hard time figuring out the gender of some characters in the show without paying attention to their voices, but the creators of the show thought of that and created 2 ways to tell if a dog is male or female. First of all, most male dogs in the show are a bit bulkier than the females. Additionally, females usually sit with their legs close together, while males tend to sit with their legs further apart. In the episode Copycat, we see Bluey sitting with her legs spread apart while imitating her dad. Bingo also sits like this when she imitates a guy. So even the characters in the show notice this, and it's a cool way of making the world feel more unique. It's more proof that the creators aren't clueless and carefully think through details for fans like us to catch on the second or third watch. Another slightly dark fact about Bluey is that wars exist in this world, which we know because the protagonist's grandpa is a war hero. Also, Rusty's dad works for the Australian Army, which is why he's often away from home. It sends shivers down my spine to think about what kind of wars might have taken place in their world. Could they have been the same as in our real world? If you think about it that way, the world of Bluey might be scarier than we realize. If you're enjoying the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date and discover more cool facts about your favorite shows. Another thing confirmed to exist in Bluey is the Bible. In the episode Family Meeting, Chili says to Bluey, "The truth will set you free," which is a direct quote from the Gospel of John, chapter 8, verse 32. Another reference happens in the episode Easter, where Bluey and her sister find Easter eggs behind a yoga ball. This moment is clearly a nod to the scene where Jesus' tomb is opened and he comes back to life. That's pretty wild, huh? In a way, it could mean that there were canine versions of the apostles and maybe even Jesus Christ in Bluey's universe. Since Bandit is an archaeologist, he sometimes has to travel to other countries. You can easily tell by looking at his office, as it's filled with various items that seem to come from different parts of the world. For instance, there's a mask that looks like it was taken from an African village and a very cool samurai sword. Thinking about it, Bluey's dad must have been on countless adventures during his travels. I'd love to see episodes focusing on his expeditions.
Go away!
There's a possibility that Bluey's family might have been in a car accident at some point, although no one was seriously hurt. One clue is that Bingo used to wear a 2-point seatbelt in Season 1, Episode 35, but in Season 2, Episode 46, she switches to a 3-point seatbelt, which is more appropriate for someone her age. The reason for this change might be because she got injured in an accident, which could be true since she's seen in the hospital in the episode Barnacus and Bumpy. Rusty's family has a unique feature that sets them apart from the other characters in Bluey. This is because they are red Australian Kelpies, which often have marks on their chests. Each member of Rusty's family has this mark, and each one has a different shape. Rusty has a diamond, his mom has a lightning bolt, his dad has a triangle, his brother has a downward arrow, and his sister has a small circle. Each of Rusty's family members has a different symbol on their chest. Now, an interesting detail in Bluey revolves around Socks, who is Bluey's youngest cousin. While all the other characters are dogs that act like humans, Socks behaves more like a real dog. A lot of people have started theorizing that this could be a sign that the character has some form of neurodivergence, like autism or something similar. Personally, I think the character was deliberately created to represent someone with some kind of developmental delay, and it's a very clever way they found to address the topic indirectly. And rest assured, there are long dogs of all kinds you can imagine, from robot long dogs, as we've already shown, to diaper-wearing long dogs, which we talked about in another video just about this Easter egg on our channel. But maybe you didn't know there's even a long-haired long dog. It shows up in the Dirt episode in a pretty unique way. After Wendy cleans and dries Judo's fur, when they're in the bathroom, if you look closely, you'll notice an Easter egg in the corner that you won't see in any other episode. This long dog has a green snout to match the rug and the curtain, and just like Wendy and Judo, it has long hair. This is probably the most stylish long dog of them all. But there's another Easter egg that's practically a chameleon. It's almost impossible to spot. I only managed to find it after watching the episode a few times. We're talking about the long dog that appears in the space episode. When Mackenzie goes through the black hole and ends up in the garden with the alien Bluey, Indy, and Chloe, the little long dog is camouflaged as one of the plants. If it weren't for its big lilac-colored ears, I'd have never found it. And I just realized that maybe you're not subscribed to the channel yet. If that's true, don't waste any time and hit that subscribe button right now. As we've mentioned before, one of the long dog's favorite spots is the supermarket. This becomes even more obvious in the kids episode, where Bandit is shopping with Bluey and Bingo. And when they pass by the fruits and vegetables section, there he is, in his healthiest form yet. That's because he's actually one of the cucumbers for sale. I guess because I'm not a big fan of cucumbers, I completely missed this Easter egg before. And trust me, our quest to find all the long dogs isn't easy. That's because sometimes these Easter eggs appear more than once in the same episode. This is the case in the omelet episode, where we see the long dog as a fridge magnet in the kitchen, which was super easy to spot. But we also see him a second time when Chili borrows some eggs from Wendy and Judo. If you look closely at Wendy's garden in the background, you'll spot a little green long dog at the base of the plant right behind Bluey's friend. Besides all these versions of long dogs we've seen, it's clear the Bluey team doesn't lack creativity when it comes to creating these Easter eggs. For example, in the Amy episode, at the very end when Jack is at home, you can see a small long dog hidden behind the vase on top of the dresser in the living room. And that's not all. The Easter egg is all decked out with an army hat, perfectly matching the episode's theme and the game Rusty and Jack are playing. And it's funny because the same thing happens in the Ragdoll episode. Bandit tells his daughters that he'll buy them ice cream if they can carry him to the car like a ragdoll, which is where the episode gets its name. And while they're on their mission to do just that, as they get near the stairs, you'll notice a small long dog in the corner, in a ragdoll version. Seriously, I love how detailed the Bluey show is. But don't think the hardest to find long dogs are done just yet, because the next one was definitely not easy to spot. In the perfect episode, there's a scene where Bandit sits in Bluey's chair, which must have been super comfy. And if you look at the corner of the screen, you'll see that in the fruit basket on the kitchen counter, there's a banana shaped like a dog. That's because it's the Easter egg we've been hunting for. As we've shown here before, sometimes the little long dog isn't seen in full, but just parts of it can be spotted. That's exactly what happens in the hospital episode, where it appears briefly and isn't as long. It shows up on the cover of the magazine that Dr. Bluey throws in her patient's face while she's operating on him with her toys. This time, we can see he's smiling in purple. Since this was one of the very first episodes of Our Little Blue Dog, we could say the animators weren't quite experts at hiding the long dog just yet. But even though finding the long dog can be a challenge, sometimes he's wide awake and right out in the open for everyone to see, like in the taxi episode. In it, when we see Chili lying on the floor, if you look at the girl's toy shelf, you'll spot one of the easiest Easter eggs to find in the whole series, since it's on the second shelf and is simply huge and blue. Pretty hard to miss in the end. Here's a tiny detail that only the sharpest fans might have noticed. Bandit is pretending to read the newspaper. If you watch closely in the episode Zoo, the whole story begins with Dad Healer looking at a newspaper. On the front page, there's a picture of a dog playing soccer. Nothing too unusual, but if you skip ahead to the episode Sean, when the pups are asking for a pet, Bandit is reading the exact same newspaper. And here's the thing, these two scenes are several episodes apart, which means Bandit isn't really reading anything. He's just pretending to be busy so no one will bother him. Honestly, that's got to be the laziest trick anyone has ever come up with to avoid playing their kids' wacky games. Luckily, it never works, and we get to enjoy watching all the fun that follows. Cornelius' ex-girlfriend makes another appearance in the episode Promises, during the playground scene when Bluey and Bingo are on their way to play. She's standing on the street, talking to that guy who sells cheaper electricity plans. Remember him? That's the same character who rings the Healer family's doorbell in the episode Sheep. Unfortunately, he never manages to talk to Bandit because Mr. Healer is too busy, pretending to be a sheep. So, did the salesperson have better luck convincing Cornelius' ex to switch plans? Let's hope so. Another Bluey toy that also has a reference that practically no one noticed is a small lizard that the girls have as a toy. It's the same pet that appears on the lap of one of the people at the veterinary clinic. Both appear in the same episode, but we had also seen the doctor flying through the air a few episodes earlier, showing that the girls' toys are always reappearing in the series. Now, let's talk about a detail that hardly anyone noticed until today, and it's a bit gross. Are you ready? In an episode of the third season, the Healers hire a team to make a pond in their garden, and when the girls are talking to the boss about Chippy, we see the three of them from behind, while Chippy talks to his girlfriend on the phone. And if you look closely at this moment, we'll notice that the boss's plumber's crack is showing in the scene, which suggests that maybe he should start taking it easy with the ice cream or buy slightly bigger clothes. Many people didn't notice, but in the dance mode episode, right at the beginning, we can see several clues as to how the episode will unfold, at least in part. Right in the early moments of the show, at the restaurant where the family is eating, if you look at the walls, you'll see a dog wearing sunglasses and playing the saxophone. Next to him, there's a figure of a guitar too. Furthermore, our protagonist, off-key as always, starts singing a song. All of this already demonstrated the musical nature of the whole story that was about to unfold, since everything in it will revolve around music and dance. But we also noticed another very curious detail. Going back to the beginning of the episode, we can notice one of the most important characters of the show at the same restaurant. Cornelius seems to be alone eating something he doesn't quite understand what it is. In this episode, from what we can tell, it seems that Cornelius was still looking for love. Maybe he was even on a date, but we can't confirm that for sure. The funniest thing is that in this episode, we see the same girl with whom Cornelius would appear a few episodes later holding hands in Quiet Game. Except that in reality, she's in the company of another sunglass-wearing dog. And since this happened earlier, it may indicate that she, at the time, was dating someone else. And perhaps she started dating Cornelius to forget the ex, which seems like it didn't work out very well, as later we see poor Cornelius looking like he's been abandoned, under a tree in the park, totally alone. But now he's very happy, as he's with the terrier's mom. And if you're also happy because Cornelius finally found his soulmate, celebrate by subscribing to our channel. That way, you won't miss our amazing upcoming videos. In the same episode, we can notice a very interesting reference to one of the most famous streamers on Vinesauce, a platform where various things are streamed, mainly games. This happens exactly when Bluey and her family are walking in the city center, and in the background, we see a dog wearing a black t-shirt with a skeleton printed on it, holding a blue can. This is a clear reference to the streamer Joel Varg Johansson, who has thousands of followers on his network, and one of his main logos is exactly a skull merged with the platform's logo, which is a green mushroom, called Varg Skeletor. And it seems that someone on the Bluey creation team is really a big fan of the platform, as we can see the streaming logo in toy form several times throughout the show's episodes. And I'll prove it to you. Do you remember seeing a plush green mushroom in any Bluey play or episode? Like, for example, it happens in the Sign episode where we see Bingo covered in plushies. And if we look closely, we'll notice that one of them is exactly the green mushroom. And as we all know, Bluey episodes are totally interconnected with each other, and this is demonstrated through small details that we see throughout the series. One proof of this is what we find under the couch cushion in the episode Cubby. When Bingo grabs the pillow where Bandit is sitting, we find something underneath. The yes and no keychain, which is exactly the same remote that the little dog got in the dance mode episode that we mentioned just now, where she chose the moments when her parents should dance and embarrass themselves. And at that moment when the entire Healer family starts dancing because Bingo commanded, right at that moment when the busker is playing his music, if we look at the hat where people put their contributions, guess who's inside? The same $5 bill that Bluey herself had donated to the busker in the market episode. But the most intriguing detail of all of this is that we see the busker himself using this same bill in the Quiet Game episode to buy ice cream, which shows that the bill went around and ended up coming back to him once again. This is definitely one of the providential coincidences of Bluey that make this show so magical. And in the library episode, many people didn't notice, but one of the girls' favorite toys to play with is a copy of Grandpa Mort. We can see that it's a plush of a red healer, which despite resembling Chili a lot, is different from her because it has dark spots on both sides of its head, just like Grandpa Mort. So we can say that the girls have a mini grandpa toy at home. And honestly, I think that's a great toy choice, which ends up reminding us of people who are special in our lives. That's why Bluey's show is so cool and teaches valuable lessons, even when we're looking for and finding its details and curiosities. In the chess episode, where Bandit tries to teach the girls how to play chess, the Easter egg was almost always in plain sight for those who watched the episode, but few people noticed it. After all, if it wasn't like that, it wouldn't be an Easter egg, right? It can be seen in the frame hanging on the wall behind the girls, represented as if it were one of the 3 birds seen on the horizon at sunset. This one is probably the most philosophical long dog of all. But I have to admit, even though it was in plain sight, I didn't see it the first time I watched the episode. In the second season, in the piggyback episode, the healers are walking and Bingo tries in every way to get Bandit to carry her on his back out of sheer laziness. So the whole episode is in motion, which makes spotting the Easter egg even harder. Therefore, in this case, it's necessary to pause the scene at the right moment to see the long dog. We can see it hidden under a bench, once again, by the lake, where a couple is calmly conversing. Truly, long dogs never take vacations. But despite sometimes having only one long dog per episode, sometimes there are 2 or more, and they sometimes appear in scenes and moments very close to each other. That's exactly what happens in the Tickle Crabs episode when Bandit finally thinks he's managed to get rid of the 2 crabs, who are Bluey and Bingo. And we see the 2 running around the backyard, and guess who's there? Right behind the bush, completely camouflaged, our dear long dog. And right after, when the imaginary sea wave ends up bringing the 2 girls back to the beach so they can tickle their dad some more, and he's caught off guard, we can see the second Easter egg of the episode. It's back there, on the shelf, also camouflaged and almost imperceptible. I searched the whole episode and it appeared practically at the end and in a double dose. And if you enjoy Bluey and other cartoons, subscribe to the channel right now so you can watch our next videos. The long dogs literally can be anywhere. Sometimes it makes you think of looking for them in places where it would be unimaginable for there to be an Easter egg. That's how I managed to find the Easter egg in the housework episode, after almost giving up. When the vacuum cleaner is shown, which is simply full of dirt, guess who's there once again? Itself, the omnipresent long dog. No matter if it's dirty, you can be sure the Easter egg could be there. I had already given up and stopped trying to find the Easter egg in the Flat Pack episode, but I decided to give myself a second chance and finally found the long dog. And it appears right at the very end of the cartoon story, there below next to the castle the girls built with the boxes and foam coolers they managed to gather. The long dog even has a square shape to be even more camouflaged and also match everything that was used in the girls' construction. I have to admit that this one was quite creative. The octopus episode was definitely one of the ones I had the most difficulty finding the long dog, and I only noticed its hiding place the second time I watched it. Most of the episode takes place at Chloe's house, so it was more than expected that it would be there somewhere. And if you look closely, in the quick scene where we see Chloe's house aquarium among the fish and rocks, guess who's there? The underwater long dog. Now, going to the seesaw episode, where we see Bandit playing with the kids to help encourage little Pom-Pom to join in on the fun. When the scene is enlarged, we can see that the Easter egg is once again hidden in the park, right under a bench, almost unnoticed. The worst part is that it's the same color as the sand, which makes it even harder to notice. Remember, we said that sometimes a magnifying glass is necessary to find the long dog in some episodes, like when we saw it in Grandma Nana's fridge. Well, to find the Easter egg in the Unicorse episode, an even more powerful magnifying glass is needed. That's because it's hidden, to our surprise, inside the storybook that Chili reads to Bluey. It appears exactly at the moment of the story when the Queen finds the solution for her kingdom. Right next to one of the trees, right at the base, it's there. Remember to pause and zoom in to see this Easter egg that was certainly difficult to find. When Bluey finally decides to watch the Dreamy Monkey movie, we see many things in the cinema, like popcorn, other dogs, and children, but we don't find any Easter egg. We can only find the long dog when Bluey goes down to try to help Bandit capture Bingo. It's right there in the corner of the cinema with some white details on its body, as if it were those backstage props that work making movies. Returning to talk about names, now here's a really interesting curiosity. Did you know that the terriers' names are the same as those of the creator of the show and his real-life brothers? Their names are Joe, Dan, and Adam. The characters serve as an allegory of the three brothers in their childhood, just as Bandit, Stripe, and Radley are a version of the creator of Bluey and his brothers as adults. Since we're talking about Bluey's uncles, now let's talk about a really interesting secret about the oldest of them, Uncle Radley. The first time we see him in the flesh is in the episode Double Babysitter, where he meets Frisky, who would be his future wife. The detail is that 18 episodes before, he had already appeared, along with the entire Healer family in a framed photo in Grandma Nana's living room in the episode Charades. And about this, there's another thing that few people know. The character design changed, since the version we see in the framed photo is really different from the Uncle Radley that we see in all the other episodes where he appears, especially the shades of blue in him that became even stronger and more evident. Which makes sense. After all, it is the main color of this show, isn't it? In the episode Housework, the idea is really to say that the healer's house is really dirty, but there's something really funny that few people noticed. It's clear that someone from the family hid a dirty plate with what looks like a pea under the couch. The dirty plate can be seen at various times during the episode, suggesting that it was intended to be seen, but many people never noticed it. If you've made it this far, you definitely like cartoons just like us. So if that's true, you should subscribe to the channel right now so you don't miss our next videos. Everyone who watches Bluey knows the super cool way the friendship between Bingo and Leela started in the kindergarten classroom. And we also see that the two will be friends for the rest of their lives. Now, practically no one noticed one of the proofs of the sincere friendship between the two little dogs. In the episode Pass the Parcel, when Bingo discovers that Pat, Lucky's dad, had changed the rules of the game to make it more realistic, she runs into Chili's arms crying. At the same time, Leela is so sad for what her friend is feeling, and we can also see tears in her eyes, exactly because Bingo is suffering. I had watched this episode several times, but I had never noticed this before.
Oh boy. She'll be right. Come on, just keep passing.
Still in the Pass the Parcel episode, we notice another really cool detail. When we see that it's near Buddy's birthday, the little pug who is Bingo's classmate, we see some refrigerator magnets, and one of them is the same monkey that appears in the movie Chunky Chimp. Besides, we also have the chance to discover that Bluey is an emerging athlete, since we notice that she won second place in a swimming competition. This is the second time we know of that the little blue dog practices a sport. This is because we see her wearing a karate gi in the episode Ben Night. And not only that, if you pay close attention, you'll see that at the beginning of the episode, she is wearing a white belt, but at the end, she is wearing a yellow belt, which means she improved as a karateka over the nights that pass in the episode. The two moments, the second place in swimming and the belt change in karate, show a side of Bluey that is still little explored. How dedicated she is to the sports she likes to practice. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you know which character has been beaten up the most so far in Bluey? If you answered Bandit, I have to say that you almost got it right. This is because there's another character who has suffered even more than the girl's father. Jeremiah. When you stop and think about it, the poor garden dog has been run over, destroyed, knocked down, run over again, used as target practice, and brutally kicked by a furious bride. Wow, that's a lot. Hang in there, Jeremiah. We're with you. Talking again about the Tradies episode, in it we discover some really interesting things, especially related to Chili. One of them is that, unfortunately, Bluey's mom cursed once, as told by Bingo when she says that Sparky said the same word that her mom did when the healer's dishwasher broke, which certainly wasn't a nice word. Besides, the series shows that Bluey's episodes are really interconnected. This is because the first time the girl's mom says she wanted to make a lake in the backyard happened 17 episodes before, in the Stumpfest episode. So, the two stories of the two episodes are really connected, which is definitely something very cool. And as you might imagine, of course, she is in her canine version. But the most interesting thing is that the former Queen of England was represented as a Welsh Corgi. The cool thing about all this is that there was indeed the breed of dogs that the Queen liked the most, so much so that she had several spread throughout Buckingham Palace, where the royal family officially resides. Now that we've talked about the episode Market, let's remember that it was in this episode that we met the iconic ponies that the girls wanted to ride so much. But the coolest thing is that this wasn't the only time the little horses appeared in the series, as they and their caretaker appeared in other episodes as well. One of them happens in the episode Past the Parcel, where at Muffin's birthday party, which takes place on some kind of ranch, in the background we can see the caretaker again, and this time only one of the ponies. But why just one of the ponies and not both? Well, that's another little hidden secret in this same episode of the series. A little before we see Muffin's party, we see her birthday invitation, and in it we can see no less than 1, 2, 3, 4 unicorns. This indicates that the party would have this theme, so Stripe must have hired only the pony that looked like a unicorn. Just to reinforce that the party theme was really this, in the background, we also see a balloon in the shape of the fantasy animal. But as we mentioned, the little ponies appear 2 more times besides the episode Market, and Muffin's party is just one of those times. The other happens at the end of the episode Curry Quest, where we see the fair again, and there are the animal caretaker and the 2 ponies, one dressed as a Pegasus and the other as a unicorn. The coolest thing is that in this same scene we also notice something else very interesting. If you remember well, you will recall that in this episode we discovered that Mackenzie's mom is a face painting specialist. And in this same scene at the end of the episode, if you pause at the right moment, you'll notice that she's painting Buddy's face, who is always sticking his tongue out. And if you look closely, you'll notice that she painted a small lizard, and it looks as if the puppy's tongue is the lizard's tongue. Very creative, we have to admit. And you and I also have to admit that cartoons and animated movies are a lot of fun, so it makes perfect sense for you to subscribe to our channel right now if you haven't already. Speaking of the episode Past the Parcel, we noticed that in Pom Pom's birthday invitation, there's a photo of the little puppy getting her face painted. Someone is painting a beautiful butterfly on the puppy's face, and we can't confirm it, but this hand could very well be Mackenzie's mom's on a day she and her puppy went to the fair. In the same episode, we noticed some other cool little details hidden in the puppy's birthday invitations throughout the episode. For example, when we see Buddy's invitation, we notice he paints a little green puppy at the bottom of the painting screen, and it seems to be a self-portrait since the painted puppy, like the little pug, has its tongue sticking out.
It's on me!
Moreover, one of the clips holding Buddy's invitation on the fridge is exactly the face of the little monkey who stars in the movie Chunky Chimps that Bluey, Bingo, and Bandit went to see in the episode Cinema.
Wasn't different.
Oh man.
And it really seems like this is one of the most famous children's movies in Bluey's world, because we can see a poster for the same movie hidden in the scenery of Brisbane City on one of the columns near the escalator leading to the toy store that the girls and their dad visit in the episode Quiet Game. Since we're talking about Bluey's Kids World, we all know that Cat Squad is probably the most famous cartoon among the show's characters. The detail is that it seems they're not the only feline heroes in Bluey's world, because we can see another cat character in Jasper's birthday invitation. But this time, unlike other appearances of cat characters in the show, we can see the cat uses a sword in the best adventurer style that many kids love. Speaking of Jasper's birthday party, we can see a big mystery involving one of his friends. In one of the photos on the invitation, he is next to his best friend, a little Rottweiler also named Jasper. We can see they're really good friends, since when we see Bingo's class photo, we notice the 2 friends together once again. But the big mystery is that we don't see the 2 friends together at the first Jasper's birthday party. The question is, why isn't his best friend there? Maybe we'll see more about this in the next season of Bluey, right? And to prove this reference, the show itself makes it clear that the game is totally connected to the crazy puppet. When the minisode Hungry begins, we see Bluey drawing something, but we can't quite make out what it is. But as the show progresses, we can see from the paper on the floor that it's a unicorn, meaning exactly what Unicorse is, proving the connection between the puppet episode and the minisode. This makes it clear that everything in Bluey is really done with the smallest details in mind. Another small detail we can notice in the minisode is the reason why Bandit was hungry. If we look at the clock in the background of the Healer family's living room, we can see that the time is around 11:43, which is very close to noon, the conventional lunchtime around the world. This explains why the game makes even more sense, as Bandit can tell the girls that if they don't eat everything, he might just gobble them up. Oh, before I forget, we can't leave out the Easter egg that appears in almost every episode and is under the living room furniture, the tennis ball. There it is once again! Now talking about the minisode letter. We see that Bluey's dad's artistic skills haven't improved much since he was 5 years old. Right on the corner of the letter that his mom found and showed to the girls, we can see the drawing of the protagonist of the story, which is himself. This drawing looks a lot like the one Bandit himself did in the episode Dragon, when he was telling why he stopped drawing at age 6 because a classmate Bucky said he drew poorly. And if you're wondering, yes, it's the same Bucky, the real estate agent who almost sold the Healer's house in the episode The Sign. And if you've made it this far, here's a tip for you. If you're not subscribed yet, subscribe to our channel now so you don't miss our next videos about Bluey and other movies and cartoons. In the course of Bandit's letter story, he talks about a bird his mom gave him that seems to be a budgie or parrot. The detail is that the bird's name is Conan. And if you remember well, you'll recall that Bandit and his siblings grew up, as he says, in the crazy 80s, as seen in the episode Fairy Tale. Back then, in the 80s, one of the most famous movies was Conan the Barbarian, starring the superstar Arnold Schwarzenegger. This shows that the bird's name is probably because the boys watched and liked the movie, proving that all the stories in Bluey are interconnected. Now, talking about the minisode Muffin's unboxing, we notice some pretty cool details in it as well. The first one is that now we understand why Bluey's cousin has so many new and different toys, like the race car the girls use in the episode Pizza Girls. Also, in the episode Silent Game, Bandit needs to buy a present for his niece, and it has to be one she doesn't have. This is because she has a collection of toy unicorns, which we now know are from her channel and the toys she gets to unbox and show in her videos. This shows that the episodes are indeed interconnected, as we mentioned before. Regarding Muffin's profession, it seems to be a reference to the Ryan's World channel by young Ryan Kaji, who for many years was the highest paid YouTuber on the platform, earning millions of dollars annually. Although today the boys' channel covers many things, initially it was just about him unboxing presents or reviewing toys, which is basically the same thing Muffin does. This also somewhat explains why Stripe's family has a slightly higher standard of living than the Healers. After all, if Muffin's earnings are similar to Ryan's, they must be making good money with their YouTube content. In the episode Pizza Girls, for instance, we see Stripe show off his new car to the Healers, indicating that money is not an issue. In the minisode, we also noticed a pretty interesting Easter egg. In the background, on the bulletin board in the video recording area, we see an image of the favorite cartoon in Bluey's universe, the Cat Squad. This is the same cartoon we see the girls watching whenever they can. If we look a bit to the side, we'll see on the shelf another toy which is several plastic monkey heads. This seems to be a reference to the series of movies Chunky Chimp, which is also very popular in the Bluey universe and among the other kids in the show. If you don't remember, it's the movie that Bluey, Bandit, and Bingo go to watch at the cinema. This shows that everything in Bluey has a reason to appear. These were the details and Easter eggs we found in the first batch of 6 out of 20 Bluey minisodes that will be released this year. Actually, if you stop to think about it, the same books that Chili is looking for at the beginning of Mini Bluey are the books the family picked up in the Promises episode at the library, proving once again that the episodes are all interconnected. In fact, it's exactly when we're inside the library in that same episode that we spot the only long dog in the entire episode. It's hidden on the shelf in the back, near the girls, right below where some books should be, proving once again that the episodes of Bluey are really interconnected. If you watch the Mum School episode, you'll remember Greenie, Bluey's rebellious son, and at the end of the episode, the little blue pup uses the hairdryer and we see little Greenie fly out of the window and gain his independence. Remember, all this happens in season 2 of the show. The coolest part is that in the second to last episode of season 3, The Sign, where we see Frisky and Radley's wedding taking place, just when the Healer family has to come to terms with the change, we're taken on a trip through the sky over the city of Brisbane. And guess who shows up? It's Greenie himself, still whole and flying around, just like the mischievous son he is. This was definitely a very cool reference that I didn't expect to see in this episode.
Just be careful.
Now, let's talk about a secret hidden between the lines of the show. Grandpa Bob officially has a memory problem that makes him even forget the existence of people and their names. For example, in the fairy tale episode, when Bandit, as a child, needed his dad to say his name to break the spell his older brother had cast on him, his dad didn't do it for one simple reason. He couldn't remember his own son's name.
What do you want, Stripe? Brad, Gerald, whatever your name is.
Another proof of this is in the room episode. When the girls are dividing their stuffed animals, they hesitate about what to do with Gloria. The girls mention that Gloria was a Christmas present from Grandpa to Bluey, but Bingo didn't get anything because the same Grandpa forgot she was born. The conversation doesn't mention which Grandpa they're talking about, but logically, it's definitely Grandpa Bob. In that same episode where the girls decide to sleep in separate rooms, something really cool happens in Bluey that few people noticed. At the beginning of the episode, we see a sticky purple gecko stuck to the top of the wall at the end of the hallway. But exactly when the girls are dividing their stuffed animals and talk about Grandpa Bob, the gecko peels off the wall for the first time, and when night comes, they go to sleep, and Bandit takes them to their rooms. Notice that the gecko peels off a bit more. Later, when Chili catches Bingo pushing the mini bookshelf, we see it has peeled off a little bit more. Finally, when they leave Bluey's new room, we notice that at some point, the sticky gecko completely fell off the wall and landed on the plant at the end of the hallway, thus completing the saga of the sticky gecko and its subliminal detachment from the wall, which practically no one noticed on the first watch, including me. If you really love cartoons, we have some incredible news for you. We've launched a new quiz channel. In it, we'll test our knowledge about our favorite cartoons and movies like Bluey, Peppa Pig, and many others. It will be a journey full of challenges, laughter, and lots of fun with Wavy. Don't waste any time. Subscribe now at the link in the description or point your camera at the QR code on the screen and start playing. I'll see you there. Another cool detail is that in the Sticky Gecko episode, where the toy is stuck to the ceiling and doesn't want to come off, we see Bluey finds a pin amid all the chaos Chili faces trying to leave the house. And if we look closely, we'll notice that this little pin is in the shape of the map of Australia. Once again, the show is making a cool reference to its country of origin. Another interesting detail that almost no one noticed is that the Healer family's refrigerator can change the side its door opens depending on the episode. For example, in the Dad Baby episode, we see that the fridge handles are on one side, but in the Pavlova episode, the fridge handles are on the other side, making the door open in the opposite direction.
Pavlova.
Yes, Pavlova.
And to finish off our list, if you're like me and not from Australia, you might be wondering, so what is Pavlova? Well, Pavlova is a classic dessert originating from Australia and New Zealand, created in the 1920s when a Russian ballerina named Anna Pavlova toured both countries 100 years ago. So chefs in Australia, similar to Bandit, created the dessert in honor of the artist. It is made of meringue topped with whipped cream and fruits like kiwi, strawberries, and blueberries, just as it appears in the Bluey episode. And it looks delicious. Comment below if you've ever tried it and what you thought, or if you want to try it someday.
Okay, fine.
Before Bluey was officially launched in 2018, the show had 2 pilot episodes, one released in 2016 and another in 2018. And Bandit's design in these pilot episodes changed a bit compared to the version we know today. For example, we see now that the dark blue patch on Bingo's dad's head covers the entire top of his head. However, in the pilot episodes, Bandit only had a patch on one side of his head. Even though you and I might not remember this or even know about it, the animation team didn't forget. In fact, in the episode Perfect, there's a little satire by the team regarding this first version of the Healer family patriarch. We see that in one of the little blue dog's drawings, her dad has a patch on just one side of his head, just like in the pilot episode. Yet in the drawings made by Bluey on the same day, Bandit looks more like the version we all know and love, with the full patch on his head.
Bed, sleep, now.
Aww, I'm not tired.
This also reminds me that Bandit's name originates precisely from that darker fur patch on his head, giving him the appearance of always wearing a mask. That's why his mom named him Bandit, referring to this trait of the character that resembles a criminal with a mask. Many people don't realize it, but this is a reference to the iconic Pride Rock scene from The Lion King, where Mufasa stands majestically on the rock. When Bandit goes to Bingo's school to pick up his youngest daughter, we notice that while the girl's dad is hilariously staring down Buddy, the long dog from the episode is visible near them, on top of the stand where several figures are displayed. But that's not the only reference in the scene. If you look closely at the toy basket, you'll notice that the ball in there looks very familiar. That's because it's the famous Pixar ball, which appears in every one of the 28 animated films by the world's largest computer animation studio. And since we know you're a fan of cartoons and animated films, we post a new video every day. So make sure to subscribe right now if you don't want to miss out on our next amazing videos. Speaking of Buddy, this little pug who is Bingo's classmate is definitely one of the funniest background characters in the entire series. That's because almost every time you look at him, the little pup has his finger up his nose, even in the most unexpected moments. For example, in the episode Past the Parcel, you can spot him hidden in the back, peeking through the window of one of the play structures with his finger in his nose. Another time, in The Creek, you can see him in the playground, once again with his finger up his nose before climbing the slide where Bandit is resting. It's like that's really Buddy's happy place, just keeping his finger up his nose. In the same episode, a little later, many didn't notice since they were completely focused on the dialogue between the kids and Bluey's dad on the same slide. But if you look closely at Buddy at the top, you'll see that not only does he have his finger up his nose again, but this time he also wipes it on the slide. The funny thing is that Bandit doesn't even realize Buddy is up there waiting for him to move so he can use the slide, just like many of you probably never noticed either. And it looks like the little pug starts getting sleepy as his eyes begin to close like it's nap time. He only wakes up when the kids cheer loudly. Honestly, I think he would have accidentally slid down Bandit's back if he hadn't been woken up. Few characters in the show wear some form of clothing or accessory permanently, like Indy, who always wears her vest. Another example is Snickers, who doesn't wear clothes exactly, but he always has on a yellow cap. And if you're not from Australia, you might not realize it, but the cap he wears is a big nod to Australia because you see a map of the country on the front. Additionally, even though it has no connection to the colors of the country's flag, which are blue, red, and white, the colors of Snickers' cap represents the country, especially in its sports teams, green and yellow. These are considered the national colors because they are the shades found in the national flower, the golden wattle. In fact, in the episode Baby Race, we can see that Snickers has been wearing the cap since he was in diapers. And at one point, we hear his mom say that the accessory suits him so well that it looks like he was born with the cap on his head. And really, we've only seen him once without his cap, when he was hosting his own news show. Perhaps the best example of an almost impossible to find hidden long dog is in the episode Mini Bluey. In this episode, Bingo makes that horrifying face that scares her parents so much they lock themselves in the pantry, terrified of their youngest daughter. While they're inside, you can see several jars of food, including some pasta. At first glance, you might not notice anything, just like me. But if you keep looking again and again, you'll eventually spot the best hidden Easter egg of all, a tiny piece of soup pasta inside of one of the jars. Seriously, take another look at this long dog and tell me, isn't it almost impossible to watch the show and still catch this tiny Easter egg? This is just one of the nearly impossible to find long dogs hidden in Bluey, so get ready, you're about to dive into another episode of Cinewave. If you thought the first Easter egg was hard to find, it's because you haven't seen the next one. If you've watched the episode Ice Cream and couldn't find the little long dog, don't worry, you're not alone. That's because the long dog we're searching for appears only at the very beginning of the episode, inside the toy store. It's hidden behind the yellow shells right above Muffin's head. You can only see the tip of its head and nothing else in the scene, and after that, it never appears again in the episode. I had to use a magnifying glass to find this Easter egg. In the episode Road Trip, we see another tiny Easter egg in a quick scene, hidden very cleverly. If you recall, in this episode, Bandit and his family are on a road trip and they're desperate not to get stuck behind a convoy of elderly travelers. And that's the key to finding the long dog because in this episode, it's one of the stickers on the back of one of the motorhomes that the Healer family ends up behind. I also needed a magnifying glass to spot this one, but it's now on our list. It seems like the long dogs are the ultimate Easter eggs as they're seen in the past, present, and future. That's because when we jump back to the wild 1980s in the episode Fairy Tale, we see it there. In the arcade, where young Bandit and Stripe are playing, if you look at the counter, you'll notice that the pink candy outside the tray isn't candy at all, but a pink long dog. Moving into the future in the episode Surprise, we see the phenomenon repeating when we see the adult version of Bluey. When Chili opens the door, if you look closely at the corner of the Healer family's living room, you'll spot a Terminator-style version of the long dog, and it's still there when Bandit opens the door for his grandson once more. In the episode Born Yesterday, we spot the tiny Easter egg in one of its specialties, hiding in nature. When Bandit wrestles Pat to take his snack, the girls explain that's not how things work. And when the camera angle shifts back to the pair of girls, if you look at the corner of the fence, you'll see it, completely hidden, motionless, and ready to trick us. But not this time, long dog, not this time. And if you also love finding these Easter eggs, leave a comment below with #dog. Outside the Healer family's house, another favorite spot for the long dog Easter egg is the supermarket where Bluey often goes shopping. This becomes quite clear in the episode Hammer Barn right at the very end. You can spot it just behind Bluey, Bingo, and Chili among the cardboard boxes as they wait for the shop assistant to scan all their items. It just goes to show that even the long dog does some shopping every now and then, or maybe someone's buying him. I'm not really sure. In the episode The Decider from Season 3, everyone was so caught up in the rugby game and the rivalry between Lucky's mom and her husband, who support different teams, that they failed to notice a long dog sitting in the Pat family's living room. It's right next to the TV, perched on a stuffed toy. I could be wrong, but it doesn't seem like he was rooting for either team. You might be thinking, I've seen the long dog Easter egg in so many different ways, but as a snack? That's gotta be impossible. If you ever thought that, it's probably because you didn't pay close attention to the circus episode. In the scene where Bandit is buying a hot dog before voting, if you look closely at the sausages on the grill, believe it or not, you'll notice that one of them is a long dog. I have to say, that's an irony that really makes sense, considering the Easter egg is a dachshund-like dog. Onto the episode Promises, there's a super quick reference that you'll miss if you blink. When Bandit is at the library with Bluey and Bingo, Mr. Healer is playing baby with his daughters until he asks a lady to grab a book for him. That book is actually The Three Little Pigs, and you can see the characters on the cover. Could Bandit be the wolf in this story? Let's just hope he doesn't blow the pages away. In the episode Adventure, when Chloe and Bluey are playing princesses and witches with the terriers, the episode ends by showing a poster the pups painted, featuring stars in the shape of Bluey. This drawing is a reference to the Canis Major constellation, a group of stars visible in the southern hemisphere of the Earth.
It was perfect.
This isn't the first time Bluey's production team has used stars as Easter eggs. In the mini-episode Goldilocks, when Bandit is telling a bedtime story to his pups, you can spot the Southern Cross constellation right above Bingo's head. This is another major star group in the Southern Hemisphere, so important that it's featured on multiple flags, including Australia's. You know who's gonna shine even brighter than any star? You! But to make that happen, you need to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. And do you remember when the little blue pup turned into Sonic? That happened in episode 50 of Bluey's second season, when the Healer sisters finally agreed to get out of the bath. Right when the two pups are drying off, their fur sticks up just like a hedgehog's, and in Bluey's case, she ends up looking exactly like Sonic. Bingo's fur is spiky too, but the reference is all about Bluey. The animators wanted to make this super obvious, so much so that Bluey even says that both she and Bingo look like two hedgehogs. Do you think Sonic would be up for a race against Bluey? Do you like Pokemon? Well, the team at Ludo Studios sure does, because in the episode Featherwand, when Bingo is upset about not being invited to Chloe's birthday party, there's a really cool reference to Pikachu's show. But we bet you didn't catch it. Right when Chili is trying to write down the party's address, in the background of the room, you can spot a pillow that looks exactly like the face of the Pokemon Mr. Mime. And this reference goes even deeper when you look at the episode as a whole. In this story, Bingo is using a bird feather to change the weight of things, but this magic can't be seen, only felt. In the Healer family, magic works through the power of imagination, meaning it doesn't actually exist. That's why no one can see it, but everyone can feel it, because the game forces them to pretend they're being affected by it. That's called mime, and that's exactly Mr. Mime's special power. He's a magician who performs mimes, but unlike Bluey, his magic is real. Another reference that many fans overlook in this episode is that the bird that gave Bingo the magic feather actually appears. It's sitting on top of the house, and the show takes a moment to highlight how beautiful it is. In case you didn't know, that bird is a cockatiel. In the episode Quiet Game, there are several fun references, and the first one is a joke about TikTok. When Bandit is relaxing on the couch after making the pups stay quiet, Chili walks in and pulls a plush octopus with a happy face out of her bag. This is an Easter egg referencing the viral toy that took over the internet. An octopus plushie with a happy face on one side and an angry face on the other. As soon as Chili does this, Bandit's mood changes, which is a fun little joke since this octopus also gets mad really easily. In one of the first scenes inside the toy store, when Bandit asks for help picking out a gift for Muffin, there's a shelf that features Optimus Prime, the leader of the Autobots from Transformers. We can see him both in his robot form and in his truck transformation. In the same scene, while the pups are playing a mime game, there's a poster in the background showing characters wearing helmets. This is a clear reference to the game Among Us. There's a really fun episode where Chili is trying to work, but Bluey is eager to play driving. What really stands out is the plush cat that Bluey places in the corner of the room. That toy's name is Agatha, but it's actually the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland. At first it's hard to notice, but once you remember the cat's role in the tea party scene from the live-action movie, it all makes sense. And Bluey places Agatha right in the middle of a tea party, perfectly recreating the scene from the film. If you're a sports fan, you probably caught a few cool references in Bluey. For example, in the mini-episode Burger Dog, when Mr. Healer is reading the newspaper, there's a cover photo of an athlete playing tennis. That photo is actually a tribute to Australian tennis champion Ashley Barty. Most people have no idea, but that Australian competitor Bandit was rooting for while watching TV actually exists in real life. Of course, he's not a dog, but a human who competes in high-performance events and Paralympic competitions. We can see the athlete's name on the screen as the girl's dad first goes downstairs to drop off Bingo's imaginary daycare child. His name is Kurt Fernley. Kurt has participated in 5 Paralympic Games, winning 3 gold medals, 7 silver, and 3 bronze. He was truly a phenomenon, which is why Bandit was so eager to watch him. Moreover, there's another curiosity about Kurt within the episode that we'll tell you about later. If you paid attention to the surprise episode, you'll see that at one point Kurt, or rather his canine version, fell during the race, but he still got up and managed to win the race. This is entirely inspired by a real-life event that happened to real Kurt in a race in 2006, where he fell but still rose to victory, which is an incredibly inspiring story of overcoming adversity. Even the time shown at the end of the race is the same as Kurt achieved in that same real-life race. You can see why the folks at Bluey used him as inspiration. The guy was a beast on the tracks.
Go, mate!
Many people didn't realize, but those can coolers that Bingo used to simulate her kids' playtime each have a symbol related to Australia, or a part of it. For example, one of them has a crocodile, one of the country's most iconic animals. More representative than the giant reptiles are kangaroos, which are featured on another small cooler. On the other 2, we can see the Australian flag depicted on one and a map of the Australian state of Queensland on the other. In other words, a complete package of references to the show's home country of Australia. Did you know that the armor Bluey wears to hunt Bandit was inspired by 3 different designs? The first reference is to the old cartoon and video game Mega Man, mainly related to the part of the gauntlet that shoots balls, which is very similar to the arm of the hero robot that fired energy blasts at its enemies. At the same time, there's also a clear reference to the iconic Japanese anime Dragon Ball Z. We're talking about the visor Bluey wears on her head, which is very similar to what the Saiyans use during the show to measure their opponent's power levels. This is definitely a reference that anime fans will appreciate.
It's over 9,000!
But there's yet a third reference that was confirmed by the series creator, Joe Brum. According to the show's writer, he was inspired by the old science fiction animated series called Spartacus from 1987, which he must have watched at some point in his childhood. This inspiration was used when designing the rest of the outfit that Bluey wears in the episode that resembles the one worn by the protagonist of the show named Arcana. Indeed, we can say there's some resemblance. Now, when it comes to Bluey's pup, whom we meet a few years into the future, you can tell that despite her toy outfit being similar to her mother's when she was a kid, it's inspired by a character from one of the most famous animation franchises in history, Toy Story. That's because if you look closely, you'll notice that the little pup's toy is very similar to Buzz Lightyear's arch nemesis, Emperor Zurg. It's really cool to see this diversity of references in a single episode of the Bluey series. And if you watched this amazing episode and also enjoyed it a lot, comment below, #surprise.
Hey, you forgot to pick up Copernicus.
Another science fiction character that, according to the series creator, served as inspiration for the episode Surprise was none other than RoboCop, the police officer from the future. And contrary to what many people thought, it wasn't used as inspiration for Bluey and her pup's clothes and toys, as we just discussed. Actually, its reference occurred in the Easter egg that can't be missing in any Bluey episode, the Long Dog. At the very end of the show, we can see a Robo-Dog version of the Easter egg in the corner of the healer's room. And I have to say, this version turned out really good. As some years pass in the show, we can see that the environment changes completely outside the city of Brisbane, with several buildings popping up in the background, showing that the city has modernized quite a bit. But not only that, we can also notice that the 2 famous garbage collectors in front of the healer's house have gained a third companion, now becoming 3 garbage collectors, referencing the increasingly common practice of waste separation worldwide. The first season in the episode Yoga Ball, where Bandit and the girls spend the day doing different things with the yoga ball he uses to sit in his office, claiming he messed up his back changing Bluey's diapers, which was a joke with a hint of truth. At one point, they ask Bandit to play a game where he throws the ball in their direction, and they run and jump to save themselves. This scene is a clear reference to the scene from Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, the first film in the Indiana Jones franchise from 1981, over 40 years ago. From this play, we can get an idea that Bandit is older than we might think.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay, go!
Tennis ball. This is one of those Easter eggs that is present in practically every episode of Bluey, the tennis ball. Some shows always include one or more items that appear in their episodes, like Pixar, which always includes A113 in all of its films. In the case of Bluey, it's the tennis ball that appears in many, if not all, episodes of The Blue Dog. Seriously, it shows up a lot, many times. Let's just show a few instances. In the Magic Weekend episode, near the front door of the house, we can see the tennis ball on the floor, as it had been used in a game sometime before. In fact, we see 2 tennis balls in the same scene, and it's also near the hamster plush next to the armchair. In the Mini Bluey episode, we see the ball when Chili looks under Bluey's bed. And there it is again. In the hotel episode, we see the tennis ball in a frame at the top of the stairs at the beach. Someone involved in the production of the show really likes playing tennis because there's no other explanation. Note, folks, the tennis ball is not the only Easter egg that appears in every episode. There's one more I'll tell you about in a moment. Is this what you want? It seems someone in the production of Bluey has great taste in movies, as we have another reference to another iconic film, Gladiator, from 2000. In the Fairies episode, the healers are playing, and in the game, Bandit needs to dance for the fairies to release Bingo, who is frozen with her fingers on her nose. And then he starts dancing and shouts, "Is this what you want?" Then he says in sequence,
Are you not entertained?
and those are exactly the same things that the protagonist of Gladiator, Maximus, says to the spectators in the arenas in a scene from the movie, just like Bandit imitates.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
101 Dalmatians. In Bluey, there are references not only to historical movies, but also to historical cartoons. Chloe, who is one of Bluey's best friends, comes from a Dalmatian family, which reminds us of the movie 101 Dalmatians and the villainous Cruella de Vil. But that alone is not a reference to the movie, but the fact that Chloe's house number is 101 is definitely a big reference because that's the 101st house of a Dalmatian family, as we see in the Octopus episode. Masks. Bandit, the girl's dad, is an archaeologist. Sometimes he has to travel for work, but most of the time he works from home, in his office. And we see some cool references in Bandit's office, one of them being a canine version of African masks at the top of the office. This shows that in the world of Bluey, there are canine tribes in various parts of the world, even though they live in Australia. Samurai. Similarly, if you look closely, you'll also see a samurai sword in Bandit's office. This means that the girl's dad has definitely traveled to many places around the world, probably even to Japan. Brisbane. And since the show is set in Australia, of course, there would be some references to the country at some point, besides the fact that the sun is extremely hot there. To be more specific, the healers live in the city of Brisbane, which is located on the extreme eastern coast of the country, by the beach. In fact, the city's beach is exactly the one we see in the ice cream episode, and also the square with a water jet that helps cool the population on extremely hot days in the city, as it can reach 30 degrees Celsius there, and other places too. Cinema? When Bluey, Bingo, and Bandit go to the movies, they want to watch the movie Chunky Chimp, a little pink monkey who goes on a journey of discovery to overcome his fears. And over 20 episodes later, when Bingo and Bluey decide to switch rooms, if you look closely, you'll see a drawing of the same little pink monkey on the floor. Bluey even makes a representation of the mountain the little chimp had to overcome during the movie. This is a way for the youngest healer to remember the adventures they all had that day watching the monkey movie. Incredibly, there are several details the creators hope fans never notice. But even so, we've noticed that throughout the seasons, some changes happen to various characters in the show. For example, one that caught our attention that practically no one noticed is that the design of Bluey's youngest cousin changed. Socks got her name precisely because on her paws, we can see she has small stripes above the lighter spots, as if they were socks, hence her name. But as the character grew and started walking on 2 legs, note that the stripes she had on all 4 paws simply disappeared, indicating that the puppy's design underwent a subtle modification that few people noticed. But actually, this isn't exclusive to Socks, because the same thing happened with other characters too, like Mackenzie's mom. In the episodes of the first season, like in Spy Game, we can see that Bluey's future mother-in-law had a brown spot only on one side of her face. But when we see her again in the other seasons, her design is different. Now she has brown spots on both sides of her face. We all know Bluey has some fixed Easter eggs, like the long dogs, but we also know the Blue Puppy Show is full of Easter eggs and references to other shows and games. And you can notice that one of them appears again in the episode The Pool. In it, the girls decide that each of them will have their own room, and when Bandit and Chili tuck the girls in, when Bingo is saying goodnight to all the family members, note that among the toys and plushies, there's an Among Us. That's right, that same character from the online survival game that became a phenomenon a few years ago. We even want to thank George, our subscriber, for sending us this reference he noticed while watching the episode. You're the man, George, and if you also notice any cool detail or curiosity in Bluey, put it in here in the comments and we can show it in a future video. As we mentioned, one of the coolest things about Bluey is seeing characters reappearing after a long time. In the episode Market, we meet the pony creator and her two little animals, Biscuit and Buttermilk. This episode happens almost halfway through the first season. We only see the same character and her beloved ponies much later in the third season. One of these times is in the episode Pass the Parcel, when she appears at Muffin's birthday, accompanied only by Buttermilk. If you also think animals like Biscuit and Buttermilk are very cute, comment down below, #pony. I don't know about you, but just like Bluey and Indy, I like Buttermilk more. And we can also see these folks another time, but in the episode Curry Quest, right at the end of it. She is once again participating in the fair, and this time she is accompanied by both Biscuit and Buttermilk in the background of the scene. Characters from strategy games. It's really cool to see that the people working on Bluey leave hints about their personal interests in almost imperceptible details in the show. One of them involves one of the most popular Japanese RPG games. When the Healer family goes to the supermarket, for a brief moment the girls pass by some shelves, and above their heads we can see some names: Dimitri, Claude, and Edelgard. These are the names of the 3 house leaders in the game Fire Emblem 3 Houses, released in 2019. So, someone involved in the production of the show really likes strategy games. Granddad the War Hero. Throughout the 3 seasons of Bluey, we see 2 pictures that are part of the family's home decor. One of them is a photo of Chili's father, Granddad Mario, when he was young, wearing Australian Army gear. Not only did he serve in the Australian Army, but he was also a hero, as we can see from the medal at the top of the armchair next to the living room door. And not just any medal, but the Victoria Cross, which is the highest British military decoration awarded to soldiers who have shown bravery in the face of the enemy. After World War II, only 4 of these medals were awarded to Australian soldiers, which means one of those 4 is in the Healer family's home. So, Granddad Mario is simply a legend in the Australian Army. The currency in the series is real. In some episodes, we see that both Bandit and Chili make an effort to teach the girls about money, and there seems to be an implicit limit in the series, which is $5. And yes, the $5 note that we see in the series actually exists in real life. But you might be wondering, why is this money pink? The $5 note is pink because it's not about the US dollars that everyone on the planet knows as greenbacks. Instead, it's the Australian $5 note, which actually features a portrait of Queen Elizabeth and has a pinkish hue in real life. So, we can say that the money we see in the series is a canine version of the real currency in Australia.
Check this out, Bingo. The Tooth Fairy put a special sticker on here. Wow.
What are you going to spend it on? That's the question.
Bluey the Martial Artist. In one episode of the series, we see that the girls and Bandit always take out the trash together. An interesting detail is that we can see Bluey wearing a kimono. We can see that while Bandit is talking to Bingo, Bluey starts making some moves, implying that she was trying to remember the moves, as that day must have been one of her first lessons. And we see her wearing it a few times throughout the episode. But at the end of the show, we see that she now has a yellow belt. So we can conclude that not only does Bluey practice martial arts, but she is becoming a better martial artist and earning new belts.
What's a bobo head?
I don't know.
Did he call anyone else a bobo head?
Yeah, he called everyone a bobo head.
Oh, okay.
Health issues in the family. This is a characteristic that seems to be very present in the Healer family, especially on Bandit's genetic side, as it's not just one case but several. The first of these is not an illness but rather a disorder, perhaps neurological, that we see Bluey's cousin Socks has. He is the only character in the show who behaves like a real dog, while everyone else behaves like humans. He walks on all fours most of the time, bites things, and barks. This has led to several theories about him, considering that he may have some behavioral disorder, possibly even autism. Another case of health problems is in the episode where Bingo is in the hospital for some reason, and Chili is with her. Throughout this episode, we see doctors and nurses taking care of her, but it's not explained why she's there. One theory suggests that it's probably related to some dietary disorder such as gluten or lactose intolerance, since in another episode, we see Bandit making the girls sandwiches, and apparently he makes them differently. Another factor related to health problems is the fact that we never see Granddad Bob in person, but we know that all the family members know him, as in the Charades episode, there's a picture taken by all the family members at Grandma Chris's house, including Granddad Bob. So, there's a strong possibility that he's ill or may have even passed away, and this fact has been omitted from the children to avoid traumatizing them. Anyway, these are secrets that we will need to discover for sure in the future, or if they are just fan theories. Let's start with one of the most fun references in Bluey's short stories, the one featuring a very famous little pig. Do you know who we're talking about? Of course, it's Peppa Pig! In the episode alongside, we see the morning routine of one of Bluey's best friends, Honey. Honey is an Australian pup, but her family comes from England, and her room is packed with Easter eggs hinting at her heritage. One of the coolest ones is a painting of a little pink pig hanging on her wall. And yes, it's definitely a nod to Peppa Pig. Since Honey's family is from England, her home is filled with references to famous things from the UK. Ready to do some magic? Let's see if you recognize these spells. Wingardium Leviosa. And now another one. Expecto Patronum! You recognize those magic words, right? Bluey's world features some fun references to Harry Potter, and Honey's room is full of them. Right when she wakes up, you can spot a stuffed toy representing a white owl. And who else could it be but Harry's loyal companion, Hedwig? In the same scene, hanging on the wall, Honey has a banner with blue and yellow colors, which means she belongs to the Ravenclaw house at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. In the next scene, we spot 2 more Harry Potter Easter eggs, a super cool poster featuring Hogwarts Castle and a wizard flying on a broomstick. And right above, you can see that Honey has a Quidditch broomstick, which is definitely a Nimbus 2000, along with a magic wand hanging on her bedroom wall. Looks like Honey is really into the young wizard's adventures.
It's a Nimbus 2000.
Still in Honey's house, there's a small tribute to Queen Elizabeth II. As she walks outside to pick up the newspaper from the mailbox, you can see the number 96 engraved, marking the age of the Queen at the time of her passing. But if you prefer action and espionage, Honey's family has something for you too. The license plate on her dad Marcus's car features the number 007, an obvious reference to the world's most famous secret agent. The plate also includes the letter Sam, which is likely a nod to director Sam Mendes, who was behind one of the latest films in the franchise. Pretty cool, right? And what about you? Would you like to be a secret agent on missions around the world? Comment below using #secret, but don't tell anyone. Even though it's a small detail, we couldn't leave out this reference. In the mini-episode alongside, there's also a painting of the great scientist Isaac Newton. Still on the topic of references to England, but this time in the episode Grannymobile, there's a decorative plate in the Healer family's neighbor's house. When Doreen is selling her old things to travel, we see something really interesting at the end of the episode. There's a plate featuring Prince, now King, Charles with his first wife, Princess Diana. But there's a big mystery in this image. If you look closely, you'll notice that King Charles is a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel, which makes perfect sense since the breed is a direct reference to his name. However, in the world of Bluey, the Queen, meaning Prince Charles's mother, is a Corgi. We know this because of the $5 bill that Bluey uses to buy things at the street market with Indy. Until recently, everyone thought the entire royal family in Bluey was made up of corgis. This really is a huge mystery. Right at the beginning of this episode, there's another Easter egg that many fans missed, one of the Disney princesses. Inside the Healer's car, there's a coloring book featuring a mermaid, and if you look a little closer, you'll see that the pups have a red crayon. Of course, they're going to color the mermaid's hair red, because it's a reference to Princess Ariel from Disney. It's worth noting that Bluey is produced by the same studio as Mickey Mouse, so it's more than fair to say that this is a direct reference to the Princess of the Ocean. Speaking of the Little Mermaid, have you ever seen her father in Bluey's world? Yep. King Triton shows up at the beach when the Healers go to see the ocean. In episode 26 of season 1, there's a double reference in the scene where Bluey meets a surfer. The first reference is on the surfer's board, which features King Triton, Ariel's father. And just to make it even clearer, the character holding the board actually calls Bluey Little Mermaid. The second reference is that this episode aired on October 26, 2018, the same year Australian surfer Stephanie Gilmore won a major women's surfing championship. Sim. In addition to references to places within Australia, Bluey also brings references to Australia through expressions, way of life, and even food. One of these references occurs in the Daddy Baby episode of the second season, where we see Bluey and Bandit grabbing a snack from the fridge called dim sim. Dim sim is a kind of meat and vegetable dumpling. Although dim sim is a dish of Chinese origin, it was created in Australia by Chinese immigrants and is extremely popular there, making it another reference to the country and its habits, because most of us aren't familiar with dim sims. And if you're also a fan of this incredible show, comment down below #Chili in reference to the mother of the 2 little dogs who were so much fun. Hamtaro. Do you remember Hamtaro, an animated children's show from the 2000s that tells stories of adventures with little hamsters? We have a reference to them among the girls' toys. In the statue episode, we see that there's an orange hamster plush near the armchair on the floor. This plush is a reference to the successful Japanese manga and anime for kids, Strawberry Shortcake. In that same episode, we see another reference to another very famous children's show. When Bingo is having trouble sleeping, Bluey takes her sushi doll and interacts with Bingo. In addition to being the first time we see a doll with humor human features in a universe populated only by dogs, another detail catches the eye: the similarity of the sushi doll to Strawberry Shortcake, a children's character with various cartoons and licensed products, including dolls, like the one Bluey is holding. So, that doll is clearly a reference to Strawberry Shortcake, which has been around since 1980 as a children's product. The Simpsons. In the episode The Sleepover, we see a reference to the show that's been on TV the longest, The Simpsons. Muffin, the girl's cousin, is staying over at the healer's house, but she's a bit unruly because she didn't take her nap, and at one point she grabs a little cart and bumps into a flamingo in the kiddie pool. Right after, she yells, "I am the queen."
Okay, Muffin, I'm the flamingo queen!
Not many people will notice, but this is a reference to a scene from The Simpsons where Lisa is caught by the police, and she's quite altered, and she shouts exactly the same thing.
I am the lizard queen!
The folks behind Bluey like The Simpsons, and who doesn't, right? The Simpsons too. But that wasn't the only reference to the yellow family of Springfield. In one of the episodes where Bandit simulates a pregnancy and Bingo is inside a kind of bag in his belly. Remember? When he tries to eat, Bingo keeps grabbing the dumplings one by one and doesn't let him eat any. This scene is a clear reference to the 6th episode of the 20th season of The Simpsons, in which Homer tries to eat potato chips, but the puppies keep stealing them from his hand multiple times. Pretty similar, don't you agree?
Don't! Don't!
Hidden puppy. Remember we talked about the Easter egg of the tennis ball that appears in every episode of Bluey? Well, it's not the only toy to appear in every episode. Another toy, a long-bodied puppy, also appears in every episode in one way or another, even if it's in the most unexpected places and where no one is looking, like behind a bush. But usually, it's among the girls' toys. The fact is, one way or another, it's always there, even in different colors like green or purple. It must have been an idea to keep the fans always looking for it in every episode. Batman! Well, folks, it seems that Batman is so famous that he even exists in the Bluey universe. Besides singing a Christmas song adapted with Batman's name,
Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin ran away. He lost his pants down in France and found them in Norway. Hey!
in the episode where Bluey dreamt of bats, which are her favorite animals, at least that night, we see that after seeing Bandit playing rugby, she starts flying, and her shadow reaches the moon, which is a reference to the first Batman movie from 1989, where Batman's ship does exactly the same thing, creating a shadow over the moon.